Good morning, everybody. Monday morning, but what a beautiful campus that we are on, and a great facility, and you're going to learn a little bit more about where we are in just a few minutes. My name is John Ravitz. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Business Council of Westchester. On behalf of our leadership, Dr. Marcia Gordon, our President and CEO, and Jamie Schutzer, Chairman of our board, for JDM Benefits and Alera Group, we want to welcome everyone to the BCW's 2025 Energy Conference. You can give yourself applause. All right, the first, for those of you who know me, you know this is going to be the top of my agenda. The first piece of business, how many people's brackets are still intact? Oh, not bad, not bad. Mine blew out around 2:30 on Thursday afternoon. We are very proud to continue as the county's largest business membership organization with over 1,100 members that focuses on economic development and advocacy. And the changing energy landscape for Westchester County and the state has been one of our key top legislative priorities and will continue to be so. We have always been the group that have asked the tough questions. As we have moved into the era of the CLCPA and the closing of Indian Point, we constantly wanted to make sure that our stakeholders, our elected officials, understood the ramifications that we thought needed to be addressed. If we are going to continue, and one of our goals at the BCW, to recruit and retain businesses to come to Westchester County, we need to be able to demonstrate that we have a reliable and affordable energy grid. And we asked tough questions, and we will continue to ask questions about the implementation dates of the CLCPA, but we never were not advocates for what the goals of the CLCPA were. We know where we need to go as a state. We need to know where we go as a country in terms of carbon-free emissions. It's just how do we get there? Now, a few months ago, some of our members who are really on the front lines of this fight, this change, came to us and said, how can the BCW now give us a seat at the table? How can we now be out there talking about what needs to get done, to give suggestions, to give their expertise? And that's when we created the BCW's Clean Energy Action Coalition. What's so exciting about the CAC is that it consists of over 100 BCW members who, again, are already on the front lines, who already are doing what needs to get done to help us move into this new and build this new renewable infrastructure. So we're very excited to have everyone here today. This conference would not be able to be put on if we didn't have some great sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, Con Edison, our contributing sponsors, Earthkind Energy Consulting, Empire City Casino by MGM Resorts, Paraco, Robeson, Westchester County's Office of Economic Development, and our friend sponsors, the Building and Realty Institute, Collado Engineering, E2, Geothermal Works, MPN Boilers, OLA Consulting Engineers, Sprague, and Select Energy, and our event planner, the New York Power Authority. Let's give them all a round of applause. As I said, we are very fortunate, and you're going to hear from him throughout the course of the day, when Dan Singer and Michael Murphy and Ron came to me in, I think it was April, to say how could we put this group together. They really took the leadership. And for those of you who don't know, Ron Kamen, who is the president of Earthkind, is our director. Ron, thank you for all the work that you've done. In just a very short amount of time, not only has Ron mobilized these 100+ members, he's got them actually working together. He's created 9 different working groups, and you're going to hear from many of them today. 9 working groups who are trying to come up with game plans that not only will help Westchester County, but also the region and the state. So on behalf of Marcia and Jamie, to all of the CEAC members, we want to thank you very much for all that you've done. For those of you who drove up today and saw this beautiful facility, I've had a few people say that we've never been here before. Well, hopefully this won't be the last time that you're here. And I'd like to ask Luis Fornes, who's the general manager of the Crotonville Conference Center, to come up and say a few words. Luis?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crotonville. Thank you, John. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Luis Fornes. I'm the general manager of this facility. And just want to tell you a little bit about, we are open for business. We're just coming up on our 1-year anniversary. Some of you may know this facility, former GE Learning Center. Well, about a year ago, we opened to the public, and we are open for business. So we're doing conferences, as you can see the campus today. And I'll tell you a little bit about this facility. 62 acres, 248 guest rooms, 55,000 square feet of meeting space, a lot of different venues, a lot of different spaces. And we have a very good sales team that's in the back that would be available should somebody want a tour of the facility and show you all the different amenities and the different spaces that we have available. We're very proud of this space. We hope to be able to host this for many more years to come. And just want to thank everybody for being here. And please ask us any questions. Let us know how we can help you. Thank you for being here.
For speakers who are coming up, there is a step. You don't have to do your steps up like the big stage. We, again, want to thank some of our elected officials who are here today. We have our Deputy County Executive, Richard Wishney. Richard, thank you for being here. And from Assemblywoman Dana Levenberg's office, Jessica Salinas. Jessica, thank you for being here as well. We are very fortunate to have our county executive here today to kick things off. Everybody knows who Ken Jenkins is, but I will give you just a little background. Committed to public service and the principles of democracy, safety, education, technology, and community engagement, Westchester County is led by County Executive Ken Jenkins, who took office in January of 2025. As the 10th county executive, Jenkins is the first black county executive in Westchester County. Before the historical role, Jenkins served as deputy county executive under George Latimer, where he played a key role in advancing county-wide initiatives. And prior to that, he was a distinguished member of the Westchester County Board of Legislators from February 2007 until December of 2017, serving 4 years as the chairman and championing policies that shape the region's growth and inclusivity. One of the things, again, that we're most fortunate about is that Ken, in assuming the role of county executive, didn't need a honeymoon period. He knows every town, he knows every village, he knows every municipality in Westchester County. Why? Because he's been there, and he's worked with communities throughout this county. So to have him as our county executive, we are in very good hands. Deputy Executive County, Ken Jenkins.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's try again. Good morning. All right, so it's certainly great to be here with all of you this morning. The BCW and Business Council of Westchester, let's make sure to give another round of applause for John and all the team. I know Marsha, Jamie that's here. The Clean Energy Action Coalition, this is so critically important for all of us to continue to do this work. One, it's great being here at Crotonville. Luis and the team that's here has done a tremendous job of bringing this back for the last year, but it's part of the economic development that we have happening here in Westchester County. And I know that the leadership of the Clean Energy Action Coalition and the things that you're going to do today by Power and Change Together is going to continue to move Westchester forward. And because of the leadership of BCW and making sure to bring this great group of people together to talk through this, and especially with my good friend that I've had the privilege of working with before, Doreen Harris and NYSERDA and their team, which you're going to hear from momentarily. Let's give it up for Governor Kathy Hochul and certainly Doreen Harris and the work that's happening. in this critical time, it's more important than ever that we're working together and we're continuing to keep the ship steady and understand the challenges while they're happening at the federal level. It's important that the leadership here continues to move forward. And the only way that we're going to make sure that we have all of the options on the table of be able to deal with the challenges on cost constraints for all of our residents, but more importantly, making sure that we have all of the energy alternatives that we need to make sure that we have an environment that is stable and that's clean and that's renewable and it's going to be able to move forward, is by the leadership that's here in this room and looking forward to the challenges working together. We are going to continue to be steady in partnership with BCW and all of you in this room to make sure that we're able to deal with whatever challenges come up in front of us and making sure that we'll continue to move Westchester forward. So again, for today, thank you so much for being here and taking your time out to be able to understand some of the new and unique and innovative things that are happening in the clean energy space, and we're going to continue to move forward together. It's always great looking at Dan and the team and everyone that's here today. But again, we're only going to do this work if we're all moving together forward in a way that is consistent, it's civil, and more important, it's steady. That's what everyone needs in our business community, and we're going to do that together. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful conference.
No, it's my steps for the day. Thank you very much, County Executive Jenkins, for being here and kicking off today's conference. I mentioned the sponsors who have helped us put this conference together. I hope during the coffee break, and if you have to go out and stretch your legs or take a phone call, you'll stop at their tables to get some of the key information that they supply, as well as going outside. The rain has stopped, and we have some pretty cool things outside to demonstrate, and Ron will explain a little about that during the course of the program. You know, as we are going to continue to say throughout the course of this conference, the CEAC is created to help move and build this new renewable infrastructure and do it the right way and do it in a transparent way and do it in a way that hopefully makes people confident that we can move forward in this area. And obviously we wanted to make sure that the folks at this conference could hear from some of the people who are going to be the architects of helping to build this statewide. And so we're very excited that our keynote speaker today is Doreen Harris, who is the president and CEO of NYSERDA. NYSERDA is really going to be the mothership in many ways of moving forward with the new renewable infrastructure. Let me just give you a little bit about President Harris's background. She was appointed president and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, on April 7th, 2021, after serving as acting president and CEO since June of 2020. President Harris is leading NYSERDA's role to advance the policy frameworks, clean energy technologies, and solutions that help New York advance towards the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA, their goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by no less than 85% by 2050, while creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying, clean energy jobs and building an equitable economy. Under President Harris's direction, NYSERDA is supporting New York's nation-leading clean energy initiatives through advancing infrastructure and innovation, large-scale and distributed renewable building, decarbonization, energy storage, transportation, electrification, clean fuels, transmissions, and resiliency. President Harris, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. My bracket is not busted. I'm doing just fine, I've got to tell you, John. So we'll keep an eye on what happens over the next few days, I should say. I think we start up again, Thursday? So I do want to really thank not only John and Amanda for having me here today, but also, of course, to County Executive Jenkins. I know the list I'm going to talk about is a very long list of ways in which we at NYSERDA are working with this county, and it's really reflective of the leadership that he has provided and will continue to do so, I'm sure. One of the things that I really appreciate about this event is really how practical these discussions have become with respect to this work. And I know I owe Ron a huge debt of gratitude in that regard. That's really what we need. When one sets a goal, of course, what really needs to happen thereafter is one needs to translate that goal into actions. And that's really what I see not only this conference doing, but the organizations and the various working groups that you've formed, allowing you to do here and really set examples for others across our state and beyond as to what it really takes to get from here to there. So it was an easy yes for me to be here today when asked for those very reasons. I'm also cognizant that I have a number of state colleagues here today. I believe we have at least one person from NYSERDA, but also our sister, the New York Power Authority, is strongly represented as well. So I do hope you take the opportunity to get to know the state colleagues throughout today and beyond. So here I am. One really exciting thing about this year for me is that NYSERDA is actually celebrating its 50th anniversary. NYSERDA was formed in 1975, and anyone who was around in 1975 will remember that there was a crisis, an energy crisis that was occurring at that time, and foundationally, NYSERDA was formed in large part to help the state do many of the very things that we continue to do today, which is to advance technologies and resources to help address the need for not only an affordable energy supply, a clean energy supply, but ultimately a reliable, resilient, and I would say safe supply as well. And so for many, many years, 5 decades in fact, we've been working to do just that on behalf of the state. And really, I think when I think about the spectrum of activities that are occurring here in Westchester County, it's reflective of really the ways in which the circumstances have changed over those number of decades. And they've changed for a number of reasons. One of them, I think, which in my view is the most important, is because private sector companies, technologies, innovations, et cetera, have expanded commensurate with the need. And that's really what I think an effective energy transition really looks like. It looks like a world in which the innovators, the technology companies, the investors, the private sector are taking what is, of course, enabled by the public, i.e. by the government, but really building upon it in a manner that creates the scale, the industry strength, and the durability necessary to reach inflection points to which the scales really tip in favor of those new technologies and the benefits that they will provide. And so NYSERDA, as we sit here today, the list of technologies and resources that we support are ever expanding. It is also the case that we recognize that we work in an ever-evolving federal context. I counted myself. NYSERDA has worked under 9 U.S. presidents, even more U.S. Congresses. And so when we look at the federal context of today, it is, of course, relevant, very relevant for each of us. But I want you to know that in the state of New York, it does not determine our path. Our work continues apace, and I would say reflective of the realities, of course, clear-eyed as to the challenges, but also knowing that what New York does matters very much with respect to the energy transition writ large, and we aren't going anywhere. Certainly, Governor Hochul has made clear the fact that our state will and continue to have a sustained climate leadership. This year's executive budget is certainly no different. As we speak, the budget is being negotiated. One of the things that is on that budget list from the executive perspective is $1 billion climate commitment as part of her budget, really focusing on putting, as I would say, not only the largest investment ever in a budget for these types of projects, but also a real shot in the arm for the major infrastructure needs that we know are necessary to get from here to there. So I've got my eye on the Sustainable Future Program as that budget is negotiated, and I think it will allow us to continue to expand the work that is underway. And so another role of NYSERDA is that we are the state's energy office. I chair the state's Energy Planning Board, and the Planning Board has convened in advancing our state energy plan which allows us to look not just at this year or next year, but literally decades into the future. And so when I look decades into the future, why do we do this? If we know anything, we know the future is uncertain. But we need to plan against multiple scenarios and begin to develop the path that the state is ultimately heading on, even despite those uncertainties. And this is where it gets really fun. We start to tee up really what we believe we need in the coming number of decades so that we can build policies, programs, private sector investments, et cetera, necessary to get from here to there. And so keep an eye on that state energy plan. It is long range, but I think important relative to where we are today. It is also the case that I don't think we do enough celebrating of milestones achieved, celebrating of projects in the ground, celebration of the transition that is literally underway in dozens and dozens of projects here in Westchester County, and of course even more across our state. Last year, I was pleased to celebrate the fact that we had reached our distributed solar goal, which is part of the CLCPA, a year early. And this county is a very important reason why that was possible. We are the #1 community solar market in the nation 2 years running. We continue to advance distributed solar projects all across our state at a pace that is truly extraordinary. In fact, last year was the largest by far number of installations. Well over 1 gigawatt of solar was installed in our state alone. It also means we're ahead of schedule in our next goal of 10 gigawatts, and it sets the stage for really how we can build policies that are consistent with New York Sun and the framework that it represents, including the successes that we can reflect on. And so as we speak, a very similar policy has been approved by the New York Public Service Commission for energy storage deployments. We'll be launching retail, residential, bulk, et cetera, projects consistent with that goal, but also really to advance technologies that will necessarily be complementary to the highly renewable grid of our future as well. I also want to reflect on the New York Green Bank. The Green Bank has been investing, including here in Westchester County, in a manner that I think is quite expansive, really starting with solar, expanding into storage, transportation, building decarbonization, and with the launch of the Community Decarbonization Fund, really focusing on disadvantaged communities in the ways in which we can work through CDFIs to invest as well. So all that to say, this progress is fueling growth. Last year, 178,000 clean energy workers existed across our state. The growth rate of clean energy workers far exceeds the growth of other careers in our state, and that is exactly what we need to do and to continue to build upon. We have added more than 32,000 jobs since 2016 when we first began tracking, and that's a huge reason for success of our state, because we need to benefit from these investments from an economic development and jobs perspective as well. And so these accomplishments are possible in part because of counties like Westchester County that are helping to move the needle through the actions and commitments of the energy transition. And the list is extraordinarily long. So I will leave it to say, literally every sector of the economy here in Westchester County is benefiting from these investments, from buildings to electrification of transportation, to solar, to other job-creating activities across the ecosystem, and the community itself. 39 Westchester communities have earned the Clean Energy Communities designation status, the most number across our state, a real reason to celebrate. And also the Mid-Hudson Regional Clean Energy Hub, which is a trusted group of community organizations really working to bring tools and resources forward for the citizens of this county and beyond. And so your organization has really taken this to a new level. And I want you to know this is a beacon really for our state and something that we very much need to replicate county by county across our state as well. Because it is really evident from this coalition and the very specific actions that are being taken here that you are taking those goals and putting them into practice. And that is very much what we need to be seeing across our state and continue to do so. And so it goes without saying, I hope that private and public partnerships will be the linchpin. Again, goals are what they are, but really what it comes down to is what do we do about them? And I'm extraordinarily not only proud to be here today, but of the progress that you have each made and will continue to make, again, on behalf of our state, of course, but for the citizens of Westchester County. I'm thrilled to be here. I appreciate your commitment and partnership now more than ever as we continue to drive the clean energy transition forward. So I wish you a very successful convening, but also extraordinary progress to be made in the months and years that come. So thank you very much and enjoy the conference.
Hold on one sec.
Hello and welcome
Wait,
to a
wait.
great.
We knew there would be some audibles on the line. We want to thank our keynote speaker, President Doreen Harris. Thank you very much. I also want to introduce someone else from the county executives team who is also a member of the CAC, and that's Peter McGart, who is heading up the county's energy initiatives. Peter, thank you for being here. As I said, under Ron Kamen's leadership, he has 9 working groups working simultaneously. And one of those groups was the planning committee for this conference. And we met almost on a weekly basis, sometimes more than once a week, to put this together in the agenda that you're going to have before you. So I just would love to have the conference committee folks stand up and be recognized for all their work. Thank you very much. What you're going to see for the next few hours is both live presentations, but also some messaging from the chairs of our 9 working groups. And again, the person who we have asked to be the conductor to keep all the trains on the track is Ron Kamen. So I'd like Ron to come up and kick off the next part of the conference. Ron?
Thank you, John. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, County Executive, for leadership. You know, when you take a look at the county and all the things that are going on, Peter McCall, Economic Development, putting it all together, making it happen, this county is exceptional. When you take a look at other states, as I've done and talked to other states around, one of the things that every state says is, I wish we had a NYSERDA. So we are so lucky to have that here right now. Thank you, BCW, for taking the leadership, making this happen. Marcia, John, and all the staff, especially Amanda and all. All right, so today it's really tight schedule. You're going to see, those of you who will open up the program, you will see it's down to the minute. And the basic thing with this is that some people said that Thomas Edison's most important invention wasn't the light bulb, it wasn't the phonograph, it wasn't the motion picture camera, it wasn't the alkaline battery, it wasn't the electric grid that our sponsor Con Ed has, or over 1,000 other patents. But the most important thing that he did was develop an innovation working groups. Get people focused on specific action that can be done, and out of that came an amazing amount of technologies and advancement. The BCW Action Coalition has a score of Westchester's best leading the 9 work groups that are there. Our goal is to exponentially accelerate the transition to clean energy in the county. And right now, here's a short video from Jim Dolan, one of the co-chairs and the principal of OLA Construction, a conference sponsor that you should definitely meet with outside once we're done. Jim.
Hello and welcome to a great kickoff to our efforts with the Clean Energy Action Coalition. I'm Jim Dolan, partner at OLA Consulting Engineers, and I head up our Energy and Commissioning Group. We have our headquarters here in our new office space in Valhalla, New York, and we recently celebrated 50 successful years of consulting engineering in Westchester County and beyond. As co-chair of the Incentives and Financing Committee for the CEAC, I'm working with our team to help you connect with qualified consultants, vendors, contractors, and finance experts located right here in Westchester through the Business Council. Incentives and technologies change regularly, and by connecting you with experts, You can get the latest information from those who can then help you along the way. There are many paths to reduce or eliminate your carbon footprint, reduce maintenance, and save on utility bills to improve the bottom line. Having a group of trusted advisors, reliable equipment representatives, qualified installers, and the ability to obtain financial support, including loans and incentives for those projects, is key to Westchester continuing to lead in sustainability and help our businesses grow and thrive. Our committee, along with the BCW staff, will ensure that the Business Council website will have a robust, sortable database to be a go-to source for those connections. Thank you and have a great day.
There's going to be videos of various co-chairs today, but if we could all the co-chairs of the Clean Energy Action Coalition please stand up for the moment? And there are a lot of other members that are participating in various ways, shapes, and fashions. Want to just say thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so the videos of all the co-chairs will be up on the website next week, so you'll get to meet them on the BCW website, and we're putting out social media this week. But for now, I'm pleased to introduce you two leaders who are going to share a clean energy framework. Angela's son is the CEO and founder of the Green Launchpad, a social venture focused on building better connections between and solutions for clean energy training organizations and employers. And Anton Cannon is the Vice President of Talent Development and Innovation at Wilden Energy Solutions, if you would.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having us and giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about clean energy workforce and our kind of framework and approach to it. My name is Angela, and I'm joined by my colleague Antoine. So I loved Doreen's push earlier about what are we going to do about it, but here in this session, we're here to talk about who's actually going to do something about it, and who are the people that are going to be here to actually drive the transition and be a part of the solution. Perfect, I found the clicker. So you might have heard a lot about clean energy workforce, but you might have also heard about how it's maybe a little confusing, maybe a little difficult to solve. So I wanted to kind of start by actually illustrating what is actually so hard about it and what can we do about it as a collective. So on one hand, we laid out one kind of key stakeholder, right? The workforce and education providers. And often the questions that we get in the position that we're in is, what actually is the green economy? Is it HVAC and solar? Is it storage? How about biofuels? And where does all these different terminology fit in? And then we also hear about who are the employers and how do I actually go about finding them for my students and my job seekers? And what do they actually want? But then when we talk to clean energy employers, we hear from them, hey, I actually don't really want to work with 30, 50 different training organizations. I actually don't know what they do, and do they actually understand my industry? And we can see how these are all kind of different fragmented industries and kind of ecosystems on their own. So what we are here to do really is to bring a little bit more clarity and connectivity to both sides. So really for us, the objectives today are twofold. One is we wanted to share and introduce our clean energy framework, right? And as Antoine likes to say, get us on the same sheet of music and really get us to understand and look at the market and with the same kind of shared understanding. And then, if you will entertain us, we wanted to also introduce an activity that we can do to start to map out where do we all fit in this kind of clean energy framework. And also, as a part of that mapping out, how do we understand where the potential for partnerships exist? Because we're all here in this room doing all really, really good work, but how great would it be if we could understand who's actually doing what and who can I partner with to further this transition together? So with that, wanted to pass it off to Antoine to take us through.
All right. Good morning. Wow, what pressure. Having to follow President Harris. I got the shot clock right here. Ron assured me that he would play the music if I ran past time, so we're gonna get into this. Really excited to be with you all today. Antoine Cannon, Vice President of Talent Development with an energy engineering and sustainability consulting firm named Willdan Energy Solutions. As it relates to today's conversation, I wanted to share, even though I look fresh-faced, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and I've been privileged to work on both the workforce development side and now on the employer side. And one of the really big challenges that I find, right, that's really kind of preventing or slowing down the development and the growth of our workforce efforts is the fact that we often don't use the same terminology, right? A lot of interchangeable terms being used out there, right? Who can confidently explain the difference between energy efficiency, decarbonization, electrification, weatherization, and building performance? Show of hands. A couple of you guys, okay, good. But unfortunately, it's the minority and not all of us, right? And that use of terminology in different ways leads to a lot of inefficiencies. So what we wanted to do today is sort of map out this industry into a framework that hopefully will get us all on the same sheet of music and able to kind of collaborate more effectively. We put up these thought bubbles out here because it feels a lot of times like there's just a lot of terms that are, swimming around there. Energy efficiency, geothermal, wind, HVAC, heat pumps, electrification. How do these all fit together? And, and I'll mention, thinking about today's presentation, and even just this morning, I was helping my son clean his room, and, his shoes were all thrown over his room, and because it's what I do, I took his shoes and I put them into his little cubbies and organized them, right? And it made me reflect on today's presentation because that's a lot of what I want to do with you all today is take all of these terms that may seem a little scrambled and help create a framework that will help us understand it a little bit clearer. All right, so even though this framework is not exhaustive, I think it's a pretty good start and hopefully will serve the purpose of getting us to kind of talk the same language. So the first thing we want to start off with is by starting with the main 4 pillars or the main 4 sectors within the clean energy industry. Right on the left, you see them listed here: energy efficiency, energy storage, renewable energy, and clean transportation. On the right, you see some other terms that are often used interchangeably. Again, with energy efficiency, you might hear energy conservation. You might hear weatherization. Those do fall within energy efficiency, but they are a sliver or a portion of that. Renewable energy might be even trickier, right? You hear about alternative energy, sustainable energy, green energy. Energy storage, often referred to as batteries, right, falls within grid modernization. And clean transportation, you hear about electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, clean fuels, and such. All right, so our first endeavor here to disaggregate and organize this is to start off with these 4 pillars. Next thing we want to point out is that these 4 pillars, right, these 4 sectors divide into electrical systems and thermal systems. Thermal being heat-based systems, right, heating, hot water, even the building envelope in theory could fall within the thermal side. Now, important to note that the thermal systems up until recently have primarily, almost exclusively been fossil fuel powered. Right, so as we understand this breakdown, right, the segmentation that we're walking you through, also want to point out some trends that we're seeing in the industry. One big trend is that everything on the right side, on the thermal side, historically powered by fossil fuels, is shifting to become electrically powered, right? That's where you hear about electrification, right? So although, kind of an interesting divide right now, eventually we'll see these all converge under electrically powered and hopefully powered by renewable energy. Now, why is this segmentation, is so important? Unless you work in real estate and construction and energy, you might not realize just how different thermal systems are than electric systems, right? I'm sure Dan and others that work in the heating field will tell you, whenever we touch a heating system, there's a whole series of tests that we have to run called combustion safety tests, right? Because there's possibilities of CO poisoning, of gas leaks, of backdrafting. So suffice it just to say for today that thermal systems do require a whole nother series of considerations, safety protocols, and such. Additionally, when we think about renewable energies, a lot of times people don't realize there's different types of solar. There's solar PV, which is what most people think of when they think of solar, and there's solar thermal. Even though they share the name solar, they're completely different disciplines. To work in PV, you need to know about electrical work. You need to know about wiring, grounding, transformers, and inverters. To work in solar thermal, you don't need any of that, right? You need to know about plumbing, you need to know about piping, pumps. So again, even though they sound similar, they are quite different, and we want to draw out that distinction. So when we look at the 4 pillars, right? Efficiency, storage, renewables, and transportation, and we divide out the 2 verticals, electric and thermal, we end up with 8 segments. And if folks walked away with nothing else besides this for today, that would already be a win for us. Because just getting us to understand these 8 segments is already a huge step, because again, there's a lot of convolution, a lot of terms that people get used interchangeably. So these 8 we refer to as segments, right? So there's 8 different segments, main segments in the industry. And this is powerful not only when we think about the workforce side, because we literally coach our students, our trainees, to be able to articulate what segment they want to be in, right? I'm Antoine Cannon, and I want to work in electrical efficiency, right? We have Angela Son that wants to work in thermal renewables. Just starting to be able to talk the talk is a powerful first step, right? On top of also, of course, teaching them to walk the walk. Now, when we're thinking about workforce, and even in the way that employers are organized, you got to double click one step further, because all of these segments are comprised by systems, right? So in the electrical efficiency segment, there's a number of systems. There's lighting systems, HVAC systems, refrigeration systems, motors, drives, appliances, and such, right? Renewable energy, you got solar thermal, geothermal, biofuels, right? And a nuance that I don't know that everybody always understands and appreciates is the fact that a lot of employers are organized at this level. There's a lot of lighting contractors, boiler contractors, weatherization contractors. And so the training and the skill sets and the credentials often also need to be at this level, as opposed to what we often see, kind of a broader and shallower type of training, right? So just a couple thoughts, and I'm seeing my time run away. So I did just want to point out that this segmentation also aligns very clearly with the NYSERDA industry report, right? If you're not familiar with NYSERDA's clean energy industry reports, I encourage you to look it up and Google it. They come out every year. Recently, the 2024 one came out. Very interesting kind of state of the state as it relates to clean energy jobs and economic development. And they also used a very similar framework in terms of the 4 main sectors. So you can see here the total jobs as of end of 2023 by efficiency, storage, renewables, and transportation. And you also see the percentage growth from one year to the other, right? Now, if you only looked at it from a percentage gain, you might think that energy efficiency is slowing down, right? Maybe not the one to be focused on. But when you look at it in terms of absolute numbers and values, energy efficiency continues to be by far the largest source of employment opportunities within the state, right? Almost 2x the next biggest being transportation, right? So some key takeaways here is that even though energy efficiency has got the lowest percentage growth, it continues to be the largest total number of jobs and new jobs. Storage has a strong growth, but it's the lowest number of jobs so far, although we keep hearing from policymakers and developers that there are jobs on the horizon. Renewable energy, solid continued growth, right, but lowest jobs relatively in terms of percentage. And transportation, one that we're very bullish on, highest percentage growth and second largest total number of new jobs created. All right, so again, I give this presentation a lot of times to program designers and policymakers and helping them think about how to create programs that not only prepare our workforce for the jobs today, but also can predict and anticipate where the jobs are coming in the near future. So with that, Angela will introduce the activity that we hope you all will participate in.
Thank you, Antoine. And that was a lot of information. Next slide, we're going to have a QR code where you can download the deck if that was of interest, so letting you know. But coming back, right, and bringing this all back to us today, we wanted to not only introduce the framework, but also start to say, okay, in this room, we have so many doers. What are y'all all doing? Are y'all all in the energy efficiency electrical space? Or is there a lot of clean transportation of various sorts? And are you a training organization? Are you an employer? And what we want to do is, again, just outside, right around the corner, we'll have a poster. We invite you to come and put up there what you're currently doing, right? And we'll have a little legend there that explains in the green sticky note, if you're doing something there and you're doing it well, please write your organization name and we'll stick it in the right cubby hole. If you're maybe a training organization, you're doing something and you want to do better, that's what where you'll put your organization name in yellow. And also importantly, this actually ends up becoming really insightful. If there's maybe an area within the clean energy space that you're currently not doing, but you want to be doing and you want to enter, please write your organization name in red. And next slide will just show you a quick example of when we run this exercise, what some of the insights might have been, right? Because you might be thinking about, okay, that's cool, we can understand what everyone's doing, but what's the so what? How is it useful? So this is just one example from a training that we've done with different trainers. And we've seen a lot of different kind of interesting insights come out, right? In this cohort, we saw clear clustering in the electric energy efficiency, actually a lot of gap in electric transportation and storage. And when we start to overlay this with the data that Antoine shared, clean transportation, for example, is the highest growing clean energy sector in New York State. So maybe is there an opportunity for different organizations and employers and training organizations to partner, right? And we will actually be up here later near the end of the conference to kind of share back some of the insights that you all hopefully have contributed to the board. So we hope that you'll come by and share a little bit more. I'll leave this up here for the remaining 20 seconds we have in our session. Yeah, again, thank you so much for having us and giving us an opportunity to share our shared language.
Thank you, Angela and Antoine, very much. And again, please get the code and also the board, which is outside. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't remind folks about the BCW's long-standing commitment in this area. Under Marsha Gordon's leadership, almost 18 years ago, she and then County Executive Andy Spano created a public-private partnership called the Green Business Challenge, which was really the first time in Westchester County that businesses were able to not only be engaged in sustainability issues, but get their employees engaged as well. And that challenge was very successful. Over 100+ businesses of all sizes, public and private, took the challenge and worked through a checklist of different types of issues on the sustainability issues. We saw that that program got a lot of attention, and we applied for a grant from NYSERDA, in which we became, under Danny Glazer's leadership, took that challenge and turned it into a certification program. And again, this was a very intensified program in which businesses really had to roll up their sleeves and get to work. But the feedback that we got over the 5 years of the certification program was tremendous, from employers, but also from employees. It helped their retention efforts, it helped their recruitment efforts, and the information that was done inside their offices on sustainability issues, employees could take back home and start implementing it not only in their homes, but in their communities. So this Clean Energy Action Coalition, again, is just another stepping stone of the Business Council of Westchester's role in hoping to change and shape the energy landscape here. I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker. Again, as we've tried to bring to all of you the architects, the agencies that are really going to be on the front lines, we're very glad that Garish Bahel, who's the Vice President of Projects and Business Development of the New York Power Authority, is here. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's worked in the power industry for more than 20 years in various capacities at different organizations. He has experience in various aspects of project development and execution in the power industry and has been actively engaged in project orientation and development for transmission, energy storage, and renewable energy for the last 8 years. In his current role at NYPA, he leads an innovative and solutions-oriented team that originates and develops high-voltage onshore and offshore transmission and grid-scaling energy storage projects, including overseeing projects licensing supporting the overall energy transition goals of New York State. His team is responsible for public-private collaborations related to their focus area, and the team has over $12 billion in transmission projects under active execution, with a healthy pipeline in excess of $17 billion. We're also very fortunate that the New York Power Authority's main headquarters is based in Westchester County in White Plains. I always have a soft spot when I pass that building because it's named after one of my political mentors when I joined the New York State Assembly, Clarence Rapplier, who also was my wife's godfather. So we always enjoy passing that building. Grace, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, I'm as energetic as you are this morning because I definitely need more coffee. It's a little bit early for me. So first of all, thanks a lot to the Business Council of Westchester for having us here and have a conversation around clean energy. One of the things that Doreen pointed out is goals and actions, and NYPA, more than anyone else, is a very, very action-oriented organization. We came into existence in 1936 under the Federal Power Act, and subsequently, have taken on some of the largest challenges in the state of New York, including building out Robert Moses Dam, St. Lawrence Dam, and building the backbone infrastructure of the state of New York of the electrical systems. This is NYPA by the numbers. One thing that's not on there, and I typically like to say, is we are not a taxpayer-funded entity. We are a self-funding authority, which means that we have to generate every dollar that we spend. In addition to that, we have spent and worked with our collaboration partners who are municipal governments, schools, government entities, significant amount of money, in excess of probably $7 billion in energy efficiency initiatives. So as you heard, energy efficiency is a big growth area, and it continues to be for several reasons, including the old housing stock that we have here in the state of New York, and the energy envelopes just generally need to be improved in terms of what we do. One of the other things that I would like to highlight is we own roughly 1,550 miles of high voltage transmission. That is 1/3 of the New York State high voltage grid. In addition to that, New York Power Authority produces about 25% of all electricity generated in the state of New York, 80% of which is clean renewable hydropower. So from that standpoint, we do continue to support and contribute to the economy of New York. One of the other goals and the visions of New York Power Authority from its founding has been to enable not just clean energy, but affordable energy, right? And affordable energy in a manner that encourages economic development, creates jobs, and continues to create long-term growth for the state of New York. One of the things that I was asked to talk about is some of the things that we're doing on the transmission side of the house. Transmission is really what I would call a key component. It is the throughway of energy. Without transmission, we have pockets of load where people use energy and pockets of generation where there's a lot of generation happening or a lot of production happening of clean energy in our state. As you can see, the Power Authority has been involved in some significant projects. Now, when we say, pointed out that we have roughly $12 billion projects under execution, they're all in public-private partnerships. We have gone out and instead of, being a state entity that takes over an area, we are more in there in terms of partnering with private entities. So it's truly the forming those public-private partnerships that have enabled us to leverage our capabilities to get to that level, to be able to go out and build all these fantastic projects. We have finished out our Smart Path project. We have finished out our Central East Energy Connect project. Now people would ask, what do all these projects do? Realistically, what these projects have done, they have enabled a significant amount of clean energy to flow from north and north central part of the state of New York to the load centers, which are primarily the New York City and the Westchester County. When you really look at it, right, 35% or 40% of the energy that is consumed in the state is just in the boroughs, the Staten Island and Westchester. The rest of the state has the rest of the 60%, and I've lived upstate. It's a big state, right? So of these projects, what I do like to highlight is one of the projects that we continue to work on is Propel New York Energy. That is now the most recent development that we're working on in Long Island. Propel Energy is also a project that is designated to build out a 345 or a high voltage network in Long Island. Long Island is very congested from a standpoint that it is primarily what I would call, 138 kV system, which in my way is probably parkways that are very, very congested. And we are in the process of working with our partners there, Transco, to build out a throughway, a 345 kV grid around Long Island that enables them to exchange energy with other areas. How does this tie into affordability? One of the key things to also understand is building out transmission enables cheaper energy to come onto the system and flow to where the needs are. And what that does is it lowers the overall energy costs for everyone in the whole sum of things. So when you look at it from that standpoint, the investment in transmission tends to return more back to the ratepayers from a long-term standpoint. Last but not the least, 2 years ago, well, it's been 2 years, right? 23-24 budget, or a year and a half. It's gone too fast, let's put it that way. NYPA was issued an expanded authority to build new renewables. What that meant is we were given authority under the state statute to be able to go out and partner with private entities to build renewables to support the state CLCPA goals. This is the action part of the goals that President Harris was talking about, where, we have issued our strategic plan. We issued that late last year, and it has been undergoing revisions and reviews in different entities. It was formally adopted by the Board of Trustees for New York in January of this year. And what that does is it identifies different projects that we would be working on or we would look to work on over the next few years in terms of enabling more renewable energy and penetration of renewable energy into New York. Some of the key things is we as a NYPA needs to have a majority ownership of most of the renewable projects that we are involved in. In some cases, we may not, depending upon the project. But the key factor, again, is for us to be the catalyst, for us to enable a number of projects that may have certain challenges, whether it's from interconnecting to the grid standpoint or running into certain permitting issues. The other two big aspects of the whole legislation is the Power Authority today is committed to spending roughly $25 million on an annual basis for workforce development. And it is workforce development across the state of New York. It's from communities in the middle of New York, whether it's in Messina, New York, or whether it's, Binghamton or a bunch of other places within New York where there is a need to retrain the existing workforce for the new jobs that are coming up, as Angela and Rob pointed out, with respect to energy efficiency, with respect to, HVAC or other aspects, and also, supporting jobs that are supporting offshore wind or energy storage. So it's a wide variety and dispersion of that workforce development program. That's an annual funding program. So, if there are folks who are in the workforce development area, I would definitely encourage you to apply for the grants. Those grants are typically identified under an RFP process on the NYPA website. The second piece is the REACH program. And the REACH program really has been designed to give bill credits to low-income folks, especially in disadvantaged communities, all across the state. So if there's a renewable project that we have, there's a certain portion of revenue from that that is reserved for lowering the bills for those communities. Again, where does that play in? That plays into affordability, because energy affordability also becomes a key issue for a lot of those communities in terms of creating long-term sustainable growth. So with that, I really appreciate your time. If there are questions, I'll be here for the rest of the day here and be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For those of you hopefully you saw from Amanda DePalma, who's our Vice President, Senior Vice President for Events and Development. She sent out a link to the digital program, which lists the agenda And as you're seeing, it's an action-packed agenda, but also information about our speakers and our sponsors. We also will be videotaping the conference in its entirety, and that will soon be on our website. The Clean Energy Action Coalition has its own page on the BCW website, which is www.thebcw.org. And if you go to the What We Do tab and press that, you'll see the section for the Clean Energy Action Coalition. So everything that is discussed today will be on that website in the next few days as well. Our next speaker, and again, we want to thank Con Edison for being presenting sponsor for the Energy Conference, and I also want to thank Jane Skolnick, who sits on our board of directors at the Business Council of Westchester, for all the work that she does in Westchester County and the region. Jane, thank you very much for all that you do. Con Edison does play a pivotal role. Sometimes I think they are given probably one of the hardest tasks of being on the front lines. But they are there, and we need them. And we need to be able to work with them and give them the support that they need as they move forward as we transition into this new renewable energy infrastructure. But we're very pleased today to have Raghu Sudhakara, who has spoken at our conferences in the past. He is the Vice President of Distributed Resource Integration for Con Edison. Raghu is the Vice President of that department. And as you know, Con Edison is a regulated utility providing electric, gas, and steam service for New York. Raghu is responsible for leading company initiatives in clean transportation, distributed and clean technology resources, such as storage, solar, and demand management and planning. Raghu is really on the front lines as we move forward on this, working with municipalities, and we're glad that he could address us today. Raghu, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate that you said Con Ed sometimes has the hardest task. For today, I'd just say the hardest task for me is to go after all this amazing lineup of speakers that the BCW lined up. So good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having an amazing Monday. I'm just seeing some people say good morning, so it's the 7th time you've heard that phrase today. Just wanted to start with something that's practical, and I think you heard from the NYSERDA President, Doreen Harris, about being practical. Really, Westchester County is at the forefront of it. I just pulled some numbers just this morning. More than 14,000 solar installations in this county, which is phenomenal. We're working with 3 to 4 school districts in Westchester on school bus electrification, and we have 58 buses in the next year to 2 that are going to go electric in this county. So that's really exciting for us to be supporting. We have 25,000 plus demand response customers. So these are customers that lower their electricity usage when there is an event, when the grid needs it. So amazing participation from this county. So again, Con Edison, very appreciative of everything people do here. And then lastly, I'll just talk about EV chargers and then get on with my presentation for a couple more minutes. 12,000 slow chargers, over 50 fast chargers, and 50% of them roughly available to the public. So also at the forefront of the clean transportation revolution in New York State. So I think that's phenomenal, and I thank everybody here and everybody in the county doing this incredible work. I think you've heard a little bit about the New York's CLCPA, or the Climate and Decarbonization Law that the state passed in 2019. Really, one of the big pillars of that is 100% renewable electric generation by 2040. This is, and then at the same time that the state is sort of moving to an increasing penetration of renewables, the electricity consumption, the load is growing. So both ends of the energy system, generation and demand, transforming at the same time. And this is pretty unprecedented for the energy system. So really, what does this mean? This just means that really, from now through 2040 or beyond, as we go through this transition, we want to make sure the transition is safe, is orderly, and is efficient, which means cost effective, like for our customers, and reliable. And I think, I just recall the county executive in the opening remarks talked about steady. For Con Ed, the steady hand means reliable electricity that our customers have come to demand and expect. And that's what we want to do through this transition. So with that, I'll just kind of really talk about the technologies that we have. And today I'm going to focus a little bit on what we call distributed energy resources. So these are resources at customer premises. Could be solar PV on the rooftops. It could be heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems inside homes and buildings. You heard a lot about the categorization. That was a really great presentation. Batteries. And you could just see for this transition to be cost effective, not only do we need to leverage transmission that you heard from NYPA, not only do we need to build out the renewable generation, but we also need to focus on the demand side and extract as much efficiency from that side as possible. And Con Edison, we're just working on all these different technologies that you see on the screen here to help customers better manage their energy use, to make their bills more affordable, but also at the same time to help the grid. So with that, let me move to the next slide. Really, I'll just highlight a new proceeding that the New York State started last year. It's called Grid of the Future proceeding. And really, the focus of this proceeding, again, is to use all the resources that are available on the demand side, so we have as cost-effective a transition going forward as possible. Our vision for for our service area, which includes Westchester County as well as the city, is really that people participate in a lot of the programs that we put forth, that people either directly participate or go through aggregators, and then really leverage the demand side primarily to balance the renewables that are going to come onto the system, and also to alleviate local grid constraints that happen from time to time, because we have pockets. And one of the things I'll just say about the transportation side, and I talked about school buses and et cetera, is these are big loads in very concentrated areas. And so sometimes we have localized needs, and sometimes we have system-wide needs as the renewables transition happens. So you could sort of see the timeline. I think we're just, it's an ambitious timeline. We're working with our regulators. We're working with all of you here to make that go smooth. So I'll just close by giving you two examples of programs we offer all of you today. I talked about the tremendous participation in demand response. The marketing name that we use is Smart Usage Rewards. And there's just some information here around how people can enroll. Typically they do it through companies called aggregators, and then get compensated for giving us load reductions when we really need them. Load reductions meaning electricity usage reductions. And then also we have solicitations that we do, such as non-wire solutions, that's we sort of highlighted on the right, where people can bid in for financial assistance for projects such as batteries, such as energy efficiency, that we will then fund in order to either defer or displace the need for traditional infrastructure. So these are just a couple of examples. The Con Edison team is here. I won't be here the whole day, so I apologize for that. But I think everybody knows Jane. I know she always gets a bigger applause than I do, which is well worth and warranted. So please reach out to our team and reach out to me if you have any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, NYPA and Con Ed. For those that don't know, NYPA, the New York Power Authority, is one of the largest, if not the largest, public power authority in the country. One of the things that we learned from NYPA was last century, our state invested in a renewable that now has the cheapest source of power for anybody in the state. Anybody know what that is? Hydropower, right? Because when the water flows, and you have an infrastructure, the water flows, you get cheap electricity. Over time, the same thing happens with solar. The sun shines. With wind, the wind blows. You get cheap electricity when you invest in renewables and own that infrastructure. But meanwhile, we have to have traditional generation, because How many of us like when the lights go out, when there's another extreme weather event, when we have a power failure and we have to regroup and redo everything that we're doing? So in the middle of this, we have Con Ed now not just distributing that power that was transmitted in, but also helping us locally to reduce our demand, to be able to manage that power better, to be able to reduce the amount of power plants we have, and to be able to distribute what we have in a way that makes sense. In the interim, one of the work groups is data. And our data group basically is focused in on how much energy do we use for our electricity, for our heating and cooling and transportation. Where is it coming from? Where do we want it to come from? And how do we get ahead of it? I'm going to introduce you right now to one of the co-chairs, a quick video from Christine. Christine is the Armentano of the CEO of Paraco, an energy company that was founded in Westchester in 1968 that provides reliable propane solutions for businesses as a bridge fuel and residents. With an efficient, affordable, and lower-emission energy source, they're another conference sponsor that has displays both inside and in the parking lot. We urge you to take a look at them. But if we could, run the video for Christine, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Armentano. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Paraco Gas. Paraco is the largest family-owned and operated propane distribution company here in the Northeast, and very proud to have been started here in Westchester County, New York. Incredibly excited to be involved in this project. And why this is so important to me is not only does it have an impact on Westchester, but really on the state of New York and the future of our energy landscape. For me, it's really critical to be able to look at our different energy sources in Westchester County and get a good understanding of their impact from truly cradle to grave. And as we start to uncover the data, it really will help us be able to shape a sustainable future and uncover the best path for us to go down as we look at different options and future energy choices.
Great. The other data co-chair is John Constable, the President of Industrial Innovations and Solutions in New York State and City Certified MBE. IIS specializes in advanced engineering and cost-effective upgrades to enhance reliability and performance, integrate renewable energy, and solve complex energy challenges. John.
Good morning, everyone. As Westchester energy landscape, it's challenging to face the New York ambitious climate goals. As a member of the Clean Action Coalition and co-chair of the Data Committee, I'm committed to accelerating clean energy adoption and ensuring a sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy future for our community. Our next 5 minutes, we'll examine where we stand today and where we are falling short and what's practical action that we can take. So the next 5 years are critical for New York State, because we have set goals of generating 70% of our electricity from renewable sources by 2030, while reducing greenhouse gases by 40% compared to our 1990 levels. To put this into perspective, that means dramatically increasing solar, wind, and energy storage while cutting millions of metric tons of CO2. The challenge is not just achieving these targets, but doing so in a way that maintains the grid reliability and affordability. The ideal part forward is, we have 3 key actions, right? First is green the grid, expanding renewable energy generation, especially offshore wind, large-scale solar. Second is we must electrify everything from heating, transportation, and industrial process. A third is the speed at which we do it, right? Ensuring that infrastructure and regulatory policies keep pace with these changes. Without all three working together, we risk missing our target. How are we doing, right? So New York State, unfortunately, we're not moving fast enough. Energy use is rising, particularly in building and the transportation industry, which accounts for about 60% of Westchester total emissions. Since the pandemic, emissions has increased to 8%, reversing every year, although the New York State solar capacity is growing at a 20%, I'm sorry, let's go back here. Yeah, sorry, at a 20% per year. We need to at least, be twice the rate demand to meet that. As we progressed into 2030, right, with a breakdown, we see significant gaps in New York. It's 74% short of emissions reductions. We are also 79% short of our offshore wind and 85% short of the energy storage. Without sufficient energy storage, our renewable energy remains intermittent, marking grid reliability as a major concern. I know there's a song, there's a bright spot here, right? We are only 24% of our renewable generation target, meaning progress is being made. Additionally, distributed solar is also a success story. Westchester as a whole right now is about, its demand is 2 to 4% higher than the expected, previous from the pandemic. This trend is concerning because it's more means that the grid and the infrastructure and also higher emissions. If we don't reverse this trajectory, meeting our climate goals, it will become more difficult for us to achieve our electrification and our 70%, our 2030 goals. Looking at our electric consumption, right? Westchester total electric consumption is 5,800 gigawatts an hour per year. When broken down by sector, residential and commercial buildings are the largest users of this energy source. But transportation is the fastest growing segment, as AI and high performance computing, as we know in this age right now, right, is happening, is one of the highest power demands. And that's because we need, these systems, higher draw on electrification use, and that requires more energy. So looking at solar capacity, currently Westchester has installed approximately 260 megawatts of solar capacity, which generates about 325 gigawatts of power annually. However, new solar installations has declined. The number of projects completed each year has dropped since 2023, and the total installed capacity is down from 2022. We need to reverse this trend, and through incentives and streamline, permitting. So, the closure of Indian Point, right, nuclear facility, which is approximately 2,000 megawatts of power, of generating capacity to the grid. To replace this, we need a mix of renewable and energy storage and on the demand side, and also energy management. Westchester currently, solar capacity, as I said, is 260 megawatts, which is nowhere close, near enough to even come close to anywhere replacing this loss. Storage will be key, ensuring that we can use solar energy even when the sun isn't shining, right? What can we do today? I mean, immediate action is required. Energy efficiency upgrades, right? Demand responses and electrification of heating and technologies like geothermal and heat pumps. We must also rapidly expand our EV charging infrastructure and battery energy storage to support increase in renewable adoption. So, in the short term, bridge fuels like propane, right, can be used to help reduce emissions. And what I mean by this, propane can be used, it has, for power generation, for homes, in the event that your solar energy or other electrification sources go down, right? This is emissions, also produces fewer emissions with diesel and oil, and can serve as a reliable backup source for the microgrids. This is especially critical as we scale up renewables and improve our grid reliability. In short, renewable is another immediate solution in terms of Westchester County. We have over 100,000 trucks coming in, diesel use, 100,000 heating homes, right, emitting approximately about 1 million CO2 pounds of emissions a year, right? And the good news is that renewable diesels can be used to help us in terms of reducing the amount of diesel use of the trucks coming into Westchester. As an engineer and founder of Industrial Innovations, we're focused on energy solutions that enhance energy efficiency and reliability. My involvement with the Clean Energy Action Coalition is driven by a commitment to accelerating clean energy, reducing carbon emissions, and ensuring an energy affordable that's for all. Looking ahead, I want CACC to play a leading role in pushing for stronger collaboration among stakeholders, advocating for policies that drive meaningful change and ensuring that Westchester remain at the forefront of clean energy innovation. Thank you.
All right, as John pointed out, we took off 2,000 megawatts of power from Indian Point, right? So we have to make that up. We're only at a couple 100 megawatts worth of solar right now. We have to have solar and storage to be able to make that up so we have electric all the time in terms of local generation. But here's a statistic for you. Last year, 1 year, worldwide, there were 600 gigawatts worth of solar installed around the world. And if you compare that to nuclear power, there's about 400 nuclear power plants in the world right now doing 400 gigawatts worth of peak power. In 1 year, the world has produced more solar than all the nuclear that exists in terms of peak power. New York State, we installed a gigawatt last year, half a nuclear power plant. If you think about the time and money to build a nuclear power plant anywhere, the cost, the time, the effort, and then the long-term viability of it compared to doing solar and battery storage, unbelievable, right? So first, we need to expand that. We also need to deal with the fact that we need bridge fuels in the meantime to keep our heat on, to keep backup electricity going, and we can't forget that because none of us wants to be without heat, none of us wants to be without power. So how do we get these different messages out there? I'd like to introduce you to a short video from one of the co-chairs of our messaging and media piece, which is Devin Nagel of the MESN Consulting.
Hi, I'm Devin Nagel. I'm the CEO of MESN Consulting. We're a communications consulting firm in Westchester County. I am a part of the Clean Energy Action Coalition within their messaging committee. And I joined this group because I believe that at a very high level, the path forward is clear in terms of clean energy versus antiquated energy resources. But on an individual level, the specific steps that municipalities need to take and businesses and developers need to take isn't always clear. The incentives that are available for taking those steps aren't always clear. And so this group has come together filled with people who have all those answers. And over the course of the next year, I would like as many people and towns and leaders and business people as possible to take advantage of the Clean Energy Action Coalition as a resource to help figure out their steps forward.
Thanks, Devin. Where's Devin, anyway? Here we go. Anybody wants to meet him? Again, take a look for all the co-chairs. All right, so another data point. United States Department of Energy documented that for low-temperature geothermal, there's the opportunity in the United States for low-temperature geothermal, which is what can heat and cool our homes and buildings, et cetera, 400 gigawatts worth of opportunity in the United States alone. Again, 400 gigawatts worth of nuclear power worldwide, 400 gigawatts worth of geothermal potential on the low-temperature heating side here in the United States. The case study's co-chair, Rob Fuhr, is the CEO of Geothermal Works. He's a pioneering residential geothermal company based in Westchester County who brings over 30 years of experience in capturing the heat beneath our feet with geothermal energy. His co-chair, George Ford, is the Senior Director of Business Development for Select Energy. Over the past 15 years, George has developed large-scale solar and solar storage projects within the commercial and industrial sector throughout the Northeast. Both Select and Geothermal Works are conference sponsors. Please meet them later. And now from the case studies group.
Do a quick announcement.
Up.
We'll call George up. Come on up. But if anyone has driven a white Mercedes and they parked it in front of the building, they need to move it now. Thank you.
How's everybody doing today? Good, 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 good. The hardest part of this whole thing, everybody getting together, was to actually remember and learn how to say Clean Energy Action Coalition. As we sat there and stammered and tried to figure it out, I'm so happy to see everybody coming up and actually pronouncing it smoothly and cleanly. Very proud to be here. I'm Rob Fuhr from Geothermal Works. My co-chair is George Ford. And what we did is we tried to figure out when anybody or everybody, hopefully the other way around, wants to do something within the county that will reduce the carbon footprint, how can they find that information? And the case studies group tried to figure out a way that whoever wanted to do any aspect of what you've heard already, they could benchmark from the website that we have, the BCW. So if you look, there we go. On the website itself, it has not launched yet, so don't go there today and look for it. It is launching in the next couple of weeks. There will be a path as you go to the Clean Energy Action Coalition component off the BCW website where you can actually get to case studies. There we go. There will be industry sectors, project types. Then you can look under those categories. You'll find electricity, HVAC, energy efficient transportation under the electricity section as an example. Whatever you're looking for, we hope to load this database up, where as you search through the database, you will find everything and anything relevant. As an example, what we put up is actually my home here in Westchester County. It's at 86 Donald Drive in New Rochelle. My house has 74 panels on the roof. This is a super insulated house built in 1953. So when people say if you don't have new construction, you can't make it happen, it's not true. It's got 4 direct exchange geothermal systems, all LED lighting. We've got high efficiency appliances, hybrid hot water tank. Those of you who are not familiar with hybrid hot water tanks, they're awesome. Look into them, and I strongly recommend if you have any other type, it's worth transitioning. I'm on Con Ed territory. Everybody knows that the Con Ed bills are terrible. As our governor said, there are 500,000 elderly who are at least 3 months behind on their utility bill. My average utility bill is $110. So I'm here to tell you, you can make a difference, one house at a time. George.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. As Rob mentioned, this will be live, and I would expect that the Business Council of Westchester will alert everybody through an email or some type of notification when you can actually go to this site and see these case studies. Again, this is another example of what you may find when you come to the case study section of the website. It may be a marketing slick, it may be a Word document, it could be a link to a website that you'll click on and go right to it. This is an example of a solar project in Mount Vernon that I developed for approved storage and waste hauling. This is two rooftop solar systems that we are going to be installing next month. And this is kind of what you'll see, the type of data you'll receive on each individual project, whether that's solar, whether that's air source heat pumps, or it's storage, or any of the other advanced clean energy technologies that we're talking about today. Just some quick background. In New York today, we have a very robust solar program. There are two paths for interconnection. One is behind your meter, where you're going to avoid your electricity charges on your actual bill. Or the second, which was just announced on December 1st of 2024, which is the statewide Solar for All program. If you own a commercial building and you have a roof and you don't pay a meter, we can now install solar on your roof or in your parking lot, export that power to the grid, and you will receive a check from Con Edison now. Previously, we couldn't do that. So if you have a roof or a parking lot, I'd love to talk to you later on today. In addition to the local incentives, you will be able to get federal tax credits. One is a 30% federal investment tax credit, and two is accelerated bonus depreciation. Again, NYSERDA provides this upfront grant funding. Again, it'll be about 35% of the project cost coming from the state. It'll be a first come, first served sliding block scale program, and you'll receive 25 years of savings or revenue. There are adders for carports, prevailing wage if you're over 1 megawatt, and the statewide Solar for All. Again, an example of one of our projects, and also a third project, which you may have missed, from the Business Council of Westchester. This is from the YMCA, which they changed over from a YMCA into a transit-oriented development geared towards seniors. Any questions, we're here to answer them, and thank you very much. And if you have a case study, we want them, so please reach out.
So yeah, there's a lot going on, right? So that's part of the piece of the mission of today, is to let everyone know first, there is something that we can all do. Every one of us can have an impact. Every one of us can take control of the energy landscape of our lives and be able to have a positive impact. And one of the things that we want to do is help empower all 1 million plus residents of Westchester County with the ability to reduce energy costs, improve resilience in the face of extreme weather events, and lower carbon emissions. So no matter how big or small an energy consumer you are, there's ways to become more independent and sustainable. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to today's first case study, which is Sam of Gedney's Way, which, if you don't know, is in White Plains. Great place, go, great food, great people, great alcohol, assorted other drinks. But if you would, roll for Peter Herrera.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Herrera. I'm the founder and president of New York Hospitality Group. We are barbecue to black tie events and hospitality consulting. I am so happy and proud to be here today to be talking about energy conservation as an entrepreneur and capitalist. I know, those three words don't go together, but our base is Sam's of Gedney Way here in White Plains. It's a 4-story building, 14,000 square feet, 4 kitchens, 3 dining rooms, 2 bars, 2 sets of offices. 9 years ago, we got involved with Con Ed's rebate and Smart Energy Initiative, and they helped us tremendously. Our bills 9 years ago were over $175,000. Last year, I say this with a smile on my face, it was $95,000. It's amazing. You always need negative airflow in the kitchen because of smells and one thing or another. But the problem is restaurateurs don't realize all that negative air that gets taken out of the exhaust air comes out of the air quality of your restaurant or dining rooms. By having the makeup air, it actually balances the system. We changed our windows, put in mesh, so it's phenomenal. We get so much fresh air into our kitchens. But the great part is, they come out. So instead of pulling 3,000 cubic feet out of the restaurant, we're now pulling 350 cubic feet out of the restaurant. Hear this one. Do you hear the fan? This one, it's loud and it's blowing at 100%. Now look at this one. I can talk to you like this and the fan is so low. It's phenomenal. If you also look, the lights in all the walk-ins are LED. It's 8 watts compared to 150 watts. We have 3 kitchens, hot kitchens. Not only are our cubic feet or kilowatts down, but the transportation is down. The hood can be turned off, but it turns itself on when the temperature goes to a certain level. So you just heard it go on. That doesn't get any better. We have a valve in our office that turns on water on the roof. The sprinkler actually goes and hits the coils, which reduces the head pressure and increases the efficiency significantly. We only do it for 10 minutes. And the cooling is much easier. The great part is, this is cold water in the summer. On coils, it makes the air conditioning work so much more efficient. I don't want to be part of the problem. I know as a restaurant and a caterer, I'm a manufacturer. Part of my business is manufacturing. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So what we did is part of the Con Ed rebate program. We changed the color of the roof. It is phenomenal for heat reflection in the summer. It was $1,800. You can see a slight pitch, so the water runs off faster. It's cooler, better insulation. Oh, it's phenomenal. We're up 33% in business, and our utilities are down 50%. Heat pumps can be challenging. They're much better at keeping temperatures even than dealing with the spikes. What we're looking to do is, this is a 7-ton unit, gas and electric. We're looking to phase that out in the next couple of years with a program to a heat pump system that will save us significant money, but it's an office. So they don't have the spikes and we don't need the horsepowers. This would be perfectly suited for that. I can't emphasize enough. This is your business, your money, our environment, our community. Get involved. This is not brain surgery. I did it. It can't be that hard if I did it. We went from 9 years ago, $175,000 to last year, $95,000. I get excited. National average for restaurants and caterers are 3 to 5% utilities. We are at 1.2. We are 50 to 75% below the national average of utilities. As you can tell, I'm excited as an entrepreneur and capitalist. I can also be an environmentalist. Does it get any better, ladies and gentlemen?
So I was remiss in not bringing up the amazing olives and the martinis. Peter, where are you? There we go. People want to see Peter later, please. Excellent. So the county and the entire country is facing an affordable housing complex crisis. We all know that. But now we hear the experience of the Municipal Housing Authority of the City of Yonkers. Wilson Kimball has both an MBA and a JD and is renowned for over 30 years of impactful work on affordable housing. Wilson and Kara are principals in the Mulford Group, which aims to bridge the gap between developers and high-performance buildings. Kara also holds a JD as well as a degree in mechanical engineering. Ladies.
Just try this. Okay. Hi, I'm Wilson Kimball. I'm President and CEO of Macy Municipal Housing for the City of Yonkers and the Mulford Corporation. This is our 90th year. We were founded on Juneteenth in 1935. We are the 4th largest housing authority in New York State and the largest landlord in Westchester. And we have great partners in the audience, from Max, from Circuit, to Noam Brampton from Sustainable Westchester, to the Business Council. So thank you all for being here. And let me do a special shout out to Con Ed, which has been a fabulous partner. Despite what people say about their rate increases, it is not in their control. We get it and we know, and we appreciate you. Climate change is happening in our area. There are hotter temperatures, increased severe rain events, today is one of them, and increased water and air pollution. There's increased pressure on our building infrastructure. We have to develop new and legacy properties. New construction standards, like Passive House, are what we are building today, drastically lowering energy use, healthy air quality from ventilation systems, consistent and comfortable indoor environments, a more resilient and comfortable building, community resource during emergencies, lasting affordability in light and utility rate increases, largely adopted by the industry as the leading standard. Last year, we opened Lamora. The goals were to attain Passive House FIAS standards. It addressed the aging population. If you read the county needs assessment for housing of 2019, you'll find that the fastest growing population is the elderly and the infirm, which is 85 plus, but also anyone 45 and over is growing much more rapidly than the Gen Zs and the younger population. This allows us, through Passive House, to minimize COVID transmission and provide emergency generators which ensure resiliency for our population that may have life support systems such as oxygen tanks and a need for insulin. The lessons we learned building Passive House is to build an experienced design team. Passive House consultants are there to help you, and there are many out there. And you should work with them because they know their industry and they know the latest technology. Schedules for Passive House related review and revisions may take longer, especially at local municipalities in their buildings of housing and development. Contract construction, please define the testing obligations at the time of contracting, not at the time of testing. And retainage or incentive for proactive air sealing requires contractors with experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Kara, who will talk about our existing buildings and our portfolio.
Okay, so my shot clock isn't, oh, it is working now. Perfect, I have 8 minutes. So like Wilson said, we have new construction happening, but we also have existing buildings. We have about 2,000 units of existing housing that, we have a housing crisis in New York. We have 800,000 units promised for development of new construction, but we also have to preserve all of the affordable housing that we have already in existence, which in our case, a lot of it is failing because it was built in the 60s. We're at the end of the useful life of many of these systems. The boilers, which are all based on fossil fuels, they're at the end of their useful life. We have leaking pipes, which have never been replaced in the entirety of the life of the buildings. We have no central air, which we know it's getting hotter in Westchester County. We'll have more severe weather, which our population is already at risk for. We have no building ventilation. We lack fresh air in our apartments, which we have indoor air quality issues. So all of these things kind of compound on one another to create a really kind of dangerous and volatile environment for our residents, which of course we don't want, and we can't replace those units as quickly as we would like to, so we have to deal with these existing buildings. We're also susceptible to damage due to flooding, not only heat waves, but a lot of Yonkers is built on granite, so we have a combined sewer overflow, which impacts some of our buildings, and we have to keep these residents in place. So we're going to highlight one of our projects. This is what we lovingly call our problem child. It's our largest development at 415 units. It's in Southwest Yonkers, 7 acres. We had a gas shutoff in 2024 in August, which some of you may have read in the news, which has not been restored. Unfortunately, the systems are at the end of their useful life. The distribution system is in very bad shape, and we cannot turn the gas back on. So we are electrifying, not only for sustainability reasons, but, this is the only path forward for us. It's gonna cost about $30 million, some of which we have raised and some of which we have not. And construction should begin, if all goes to plan, summer of this year. So, hopefully we can share some groundbreaking news with you pretty soon. The goals of the project are to electrify and decarbonize. We're obviously increasing climate resilience and reducing greenhouse gas pollution, but that's kind of very top level. That's why everybody wants to electrify. We know that our building systems are failing, so we're demolishing those systems before, they fail on us. We're installing new heat pump, heating and cooling systems, domestic water systems, and new electrical services to provide the electricity that it's gonna take to do that. Working with Con Ed and partners, in this room, we're very grateful to have that support. And we're replacing the gas stoves with induction, gas laundry dryers with electric, and like we said, heat pumps for heating and cooling and domestic hot water. The financing of these projects is complicated. I don't think anybody really has it figured out, especially in our case. We are in the middle of a tax credit compliance period. We are not refinancing this property. And so we are relying on a lot of grants, a lot of forgivable loans. We have backup plans to use the New York Green Bank to try and bridge that financing gap, but these projects are very expensive. We're leveraging as much as we can, but if anybody has any money hiding under any rocks, we will take it. But we're happy to be partnering with Westchester County. They're providing some funding for us. We're happy to be, we're trying to partner with NYSERDA for equipment rebates for these heat pumps and stoves. But it's complicated and we haven't got it all figured out, but I think the first thing is to start and figure it out as we go, right? And that's our contact information. If anybody has any questions or wants to give us any money, we will take it. And we'll stick around if anybody wants to talk afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So you're going to hear later today about solar and battery storage, where we are, the moratoriums that are out there, the concerns that people have. Today, what we just heard was that in a major potential gas catastrophe with an aging gas system that could have had very negative consequences, instead of just replacing the gas line, we see the Housing Authority of Yonkers moving ahead with a full electrification program, thereby eliminating that need to rebuild that infrastructure. So communities aren't really knowledgeable and familiar with battery storage, right? And they have concerns about fire safety, understandable. But did you know that according to the National Fire Protection Association, there's a major gas leak or explosion every 40 hours in the United States, right? We don't think about these things. We don't think about the combustion engines that we drive around in our gas cars that have explosions 50 times a second, thousands of times a minute to get us from here to there. In 2018, a gas main in Massachusetts caused widespread fires and explosions across 3 towns. 1 death, 22 injuries, 131 structures damaged, 50,000 people evacuated. In Wapages Falls on November 2023, a gas line explosion injured 10 residents and 5 first responders. So when we think about where we're going, how we're going to get there, what we want to do, how we deal with all these technologies, how we integrate these into our plans and our programs for ourselves, our businesses, our schools, our houses, our workplaces, all these factors come in, which is why we need all of you to participate in the Clean Energy Action Coalition to help figure out how we put the pieces of the puzzle together in a way that makes sense for us individually and collectively, town by town, municipality by municipality, throughout the county. We're going to take a 15-minute break. We're going to come back at 11:10 thereabouts. And please visit all the sponsors out there. There's a great many excellent information, outstanding, and thank you all. All right, everybody, tight schedule. You'll have plenty of time to talk during lunch. Stick around as long as you want after lunch, but if you could, please take your seats. We're going to hear from John Ravitz and Dan Singer. Everybody come on in. Thank you very much. Gather around. They're coming, they're coming. Everybody's coming, right? Let's go, let's go. Come on, quack, 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 quack. Little ducks, come on, little ducks. Everybody in a row. Here we go. I learned my timekeeping skills from Marcia, so. All right, John Ravitz, Dan Singer, you're up.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody. I hope everybody got a chance to meet our sponsors and see the information that they have at their tables, but also the incredible outside presentations. When I pulled up and I saw the biofuel demonstration, I thought they were making moonshine, but they're not. But that is a really exciting thing to see, so I hope everyone will take advantage of that through the remainder of the conference as well. I also hope people will, as we've said, the changing energy landscape is part of the BCW's legislative priorities and our legislative agenda, which includes many of the things that you're hearing today, as well as other issues, is out front. So please take that. That's our playbook for the year, and it really comes from our BCW members in all different sectors on both the county, state, and federal level. You know, one of the exciting things that hopefully you've heard this morning is the fact that all of our co-chairs and all of the companies who are involved in the case studies are BCW members. And every member of the Clean Energy Action Coalition, all 100 plus, are BCW members. And when Dan and Michael Murphy and Ron and I sat down for the first time to put this coalition together in April, we realized that A, we needed Ron to really do the day-to-day operations, but more importantly, we needed to be able to come up with an agenda that's not just this conference. If you take anything away, and hopefully you're taking a lot away from this conference and all of the incredible information that you're going to find, this is really the launching, if you will, of the Clean Energy Action Coalition. The working groups that Ron has put together now are going to take this show on the road. They're going to talk about the case studies that you've heard today. You're going to hear a little later about some ideas that we want to go into local municipalities and local government and give them our best advice as well as our cooperation and support as we move forward. But there's a lot of work to do. And a lot of work means a lot of time, and a lot of time means a lot of resources. So as much as I like to call Ron Kamen 5 or 6 times a day, and he then goes out and does the work, we are going to need to support this coalition. And one of the first people, actually the first person, who not only helped create this coalition, but who stood up and said, you know what, this is too important not to be engaged, not to be involved, and we need to put the financial resources in play, was Dan Singer from Robeson. And so Dan, thank you for your leadership, and come on up.
Thanks, John, and I'm just amazed looking out at this room. I've been attending the different iterations of this conference that we've had over a number of years that started from a small collection of people that halfway filled a small hotel ballroom to this where we needed to expand the amount of space that we have. And what I enjoy the most of listening to what and participating in what we're talking about today, we have already heard from policymakers, and we've heard from the utilities, and we've heard from people that are involved in financing, people that are involved in case studies, and people that talk about electrification for everything and whether or not that's battery storage and solar. We're obviously going to spend some time talking about, and we have already touched on, alternative fuels, and we'll spend some more time talking about biofuels and other contributions that makes, as well as the balance of the agenda. I list all of that, and I talk about all of that because you always hear people talk about they should do something, right? Oh, don't you wish they would solve this problem? This is they, and I'm not doing a pronouns thing or whatever. It's a they. This is them. This is they. This is the opportunity for us to get together and collaborate. I've been involved in the world of energy literally my entire life. And I've spoken to people in each one of the disciplines that I was just reciting, or many of the people that have already spoken today, I've had the opportunity to interact with on an individual basis. But what better place to launch an initiative like this than in Westchester County, through the auspices of the Business Council of Westchester? What is Westchester, right? We have obviously a lot of progressive outlooks and policies that come out of New York City start spreading north through Westchester. But what makes Westchester such a great, unique case study is we have over, 45 different individual municipalities and building departments with their own political climate and their own priorities, each one of them trying to do something. And if we can come up with the right cocktail of solutions that help us address the problem, make the planet better for our children while doing it in a way that's affordable, collaboratively. Look, at the end of the day, these issues, these initiatives are happening either through carrots, and let's help people find the carrots, or through sticks, and let's make sure we help people avoid the sticks. But working together, we're going to be able to find this. It was important to me and to us at Robeson to get behind the effort to make sure that we all can collaborate together. And as John mentioned, we wanted to get behind it financially because it doesn't happen on its own. And I really would encourage everybody who touches this in any way to participate in that way as well. Associating your name, your brand, with the effort that is going to solve what might be the most challenging issues that face us as a society and as a community, what better way for you to be contributing to your community? So I strongly encourage you to take part and participate.
Thank you. So again, this is I'm going to do a call to action at the end, but this is my first call to action. I need people to take the Follow Dan Singer. We need companies of all sizes to support this coalition so we can do the hard work, so we can lean in and really make sure that we have a seat at the table throughout the county in all of the important areas that we are going to have to focus on to build this renewable infrastructure. So we're asking for financial support. If companies can give us $5,000, that will be a huge help. We will do all we can for co-branding. You will have a seat at the table, obviously, as part of our coalition, but you're already seeing in the first 2 hours of this conference the huge amount of challenges that we have to deal with. And again, we're going to need the support to be able to not only keep this coalition moving, but grow it. Like, just think about it. Since April, we have 100 members. By next April, we could actually have another 100 to 150 members. And that means more people getting involved. That means more coordination. That means giving Ron the support that he is going to need to be able to keep all these trains on the track. So again, if you are interested in helping us in this manner, please reach out to myself or to Ron Kamen. But again, we definitely need your help. Thank you.
If you would, the schools. So as they get that together. So one of the sectors that is critically important to all of us in our future.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Ann Cavallero. I'm Senior Executive of Business Development for Renew Property Restoration and Construction, Milburn Flooring, and Renew Energy Solutions. I am co-chair leader of the BCW K-12 Clean Energy Action Coalition. I'm also co-chair of the BRI Hudson Valley Women in Construction. What do? We provide turnkey energy solutions using a budget-neutral approach to make building improvements that reduce energy, water use, and increase operational efficiency. By partnering with us, a facility owner can use an EPC to pay for today's facility upgrades with tomorrow's energy savings. Why did I join the CEAC? I have 3 reasons. Number 1, because Michael Murphy told me I had to, and you can't say no to him. Number 2, I've also been involved in the K-12 market for over 20 years, from a sales perspective, so I have deep roots there. And 3, and the most important reason, we care about our children's futures, and we want to create better facilities while teaching them the importance of sustainability. Okay, what do I want the CEAC to achieve in the next year-ish? Okay. I want to collaborate with school districts to develop an engaging way to educate students about energy conservation. We want to partner with them to install real-time energy monitoring systems that can be integrated into the curriculum so that they can learn firsthand how energy is used and how to conserve it. They are our future leaders, and we're their example. Thank you.
Thanks. The other co-chair for the schools group, by the way, is Kathy Hoffman. You can find her on some of our social media. Again, you'll see all the co-chairs up live on, not on live, but on interviews on the BCW website next week. All right, so thank you, Jane Ann. There's nothing more important than creating a more sustainable world for our children. Leading by example with innovative energy-saving technologies and performance contracting, one finance mechanism that is available, and you're going to hear about more later, that every school can and should do. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Frank Stefanelli, retired Director of Facilities and Operations for the White Plains City Schools and a renowned consultant with EDU Facilities Management. Frank.
Thank you, everybody. I want to thank the BCW. I also want to thank NYSERDA, Con Ed, and NYPA because they're our partners, and all of you, because we couldn't do what we do without everybody. It's a team, and that's what it's all about. We know from the past that our students cannot learn remotely. They got to be in schools, and they got to be safe, they got to be healthy, and we got to maintain them. And that's why I'm here today, to talk about that. Let's see. So a little bit about White Plains. You know, it was established in 1960. There were schools before that in White Plains, but they were come together with the city. At some point, they separated. We have 5 elementary schools, 2 secondary schools, and 1 huge high school. The high school is 400,000 square feet, holds about 2,200 students, and we have about 147 acres. We have fields all over them, more going to turf instead of grass. Ugh. $4 million a pop, they're not cheap. But we have 7,000 students, and this year, and I didn't mention, but I will, our average age, our schools are 80 years old, average. Built in 1925 and 1930. They are quite a set of buildings. They are beautiful buildings, they're well maintained, and I think because of the taxpayer, and I appreciate that. Go real quick, we had an energy performance contract that we did. Our savings, so we went from fossil fuel, heavy oil, went to number 2. All our schools are dual fueled. We have 2 boilers, mostly 2 to 4 boilers at each school. Our school's average size is 120,000 square feet, so I said the high school's 400,000. Which the high school will be adding on right now, another 50,000. We'll make it 450,000. I can't even believe it, but it's happening right now, and that's why I'm still consulting with the district. We cover our first ECM was about 839,000. That's when we put dual fuel at all the schools. You know, we're even moving away, and I'll tell you in the future what we're doing. But these are just some of the projects we did. We expanded our building management system, VFDs. Our average bill for energy, our yearly bill is about $1.2 million in electric rate. Our natural gas is about $1 million. So that's what we're currently paying. Without that savings, that 830,000, 850,000 helped us go through and help us with other things, improvements. We've already went through steam valves, all our buildings, about a majority of them, I think 4 of them are all steam plants. So we bring steam. It's kind of hard to put a hot water system in a building that's 3 floors, and it's all brick building, solid brick, you know, so it's very difficult. We replaced all the windows. We've maintained all the schools, and I think that's the Board of Education supports facilities, which is really a good thing. I see some other school districts around, and we try to help them, but we don't see that kind of support in some school districts. Some of the newer things, capital improvements, we're always taking the money that we're saving and we're investing in our schools. It's probably the most important thing because they're not getting older, they're used. Just think of 20 kids in your house, because that's the average size of a classroom running around all day. Somebody says, one parent, oh, go to Home Depot and buy a door. A door at Home Depot probably wouldn't last more than a month in a school. So we put ventilation systems, building management system. We did all that. And we took all that money and we continued to invest. Con Ed, one of our partners, I mean, just quickly, you know, we had an incentive plan. We went through all our steam traps, 1,900 steam traps. We saved quite a bit of money. If you see the energy savings, $117,000, that was 1 year. You know, we spent $251,000, and this is all of schools, so you can see the list there. You know, Con Ed, other incentives, we did insulation jackets throughout. We replaced insulation. You ever hear the students talk about some of the older schools, and you got these tunnels and hidden stuff. Well, we had a room in our auditorium, in the upper auditorium, and the kids were hanging out. We didn't even know, but they had a party up there. They were disappearing during school. So, you know, all our tunnels and that, we went through all of them. We insulated them all, and you could see some of the incentives. We got $332,000 in incentives received. Our savings is $140,000 a year, and you could see the reduction, 500 metric tons of CO2. You know, greenhouse gases. We continue to look at, you know, the evolution. Think about a school, 1930. What do we have in there? A film strip. Maybe you had 1 outlet or 2 outlets in a school. You know, now you think of all the gadgets. We have interactive boards. You know, we went from film strips to projectors. Now we have interactive TVs. They're 82 inches, whatever it is. Students go up there. It's pretty interactive. They're all intense. Everybody now has a laptop or an iPad. So we had to increase all our schools. So one of the things we did was we looked at making sure that we put money into changing all our lights to LED. And that brought another substantial savings that we could save. Because you think about the power requirements. Every kid's plugging in their phone, their iPad. I never seen so many kids in the classroom looking for outlets, and now we got outlet strips. I think we got written up by the state because we had them all daisy-chained in one classroom or so. But electric vehicles, we're actually looking. We like to have our own facility. You know, right now we have a service to doing that, and they just gave us an increase, but we like the NYSERDA voucher program. We were into that with Con Ed. You know, we have 5 buses. We're involved in the V2G pilot program, and the suggestion is that it's going to be a 30% reduction in our fuel cost. You know, our battery life is 9 to 11 years. We're hoping to use them to power the grid. And let me cut this short. I want to make sure that our current capital and future plans, if you don't know, the governor just signed legislation that now we have a minimum. Guess what? We can't be in the school if the temperature is 65 or below. Right now, students can't be in the classroom if it's 82 or above. So that brought us a challenge, but we were way ahead, the school district. We just finished, we have 1 more school to do, but we just air conditioned all our classrooms, over 600. We put in a VFE system throughout the whole district. We're hoping that at some point we're going to shoulder and actually use the heat pump system during September, October, November, and also and change over. Once it hits 32, we plan to bring our heating plants back up. So we're hoping to heat and cool with our current heat pumps with the new system. And at the end of the day, it's all about reinvesting, and that's what we've continued to do, is reinvest into the school district the savings that we get every year. So thank you, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks so much, Frank. So one of the ways is performance contracting. You're going to hear about other ways of financing. One of the things to realize is that right now there are incentives. Eventually there will be penalties, right? So take advantage of the incentives now, get an excellent return on investment, and move on. All right, as John Constable noted, oh, by the way, Frank, outside MPN Boilers has a high temperature heat pump. That means they can produce steam with a heat pump. It's a breakthrough technology. Take a look, talk to them as well, and obviously the other folks around as well. All right, as John Constable noted, while we systematically transition to electric HVAC systems and transportation over the next several decades, there's 100,000 homes today that heat with oil in Westchester. There are thousands of diesel trucks that are on the road that are spewing emissions and carbon. What we're going to hear right now is, and if you would, in one moment when you go outside, you can see Sprague, you could talk to Roberson about renewable fuels, you could see a renewable fuels demonstration project. But now I'm pleased to introduce you to Stephen Dodge, the Director of State Regulatory Affairs for the Clean Fuel Alliance America. Steve.
Thanks, Ron. I just said to him during the break, if this clean energy stuff doesn't work out for you, Ron, I think you need to work for a railroad because you can make the trains run on time. First of all, I want to thank the coalition for, and the council for inviting me here, and thanks to Dan Singer for connecting the dots. Dan is a great representative of the heating fuels industry. Happy to have him as a friend and as a partner. If you think of biomass-based diesel, just think of diesel. Clean Fuels Alliance America is the trade association that represents the biomass-based diesel industry. And when you think of us, don't think of ethanol and gasoline, don't think of woody biomass, just think of diesel, low-carbon diesel replacement. So, as Ron mentioned, diesel is used in heating applications. Heating oil and diesel fuel used for transportation are the exact same product. Didn't used to be, but they are now. So think of locomotives, think of airplanes, think of heavy-duty trucks, school buses. Any application that uses diesel is where we come into play. And I think we're kind of in the sweet spot, and we really check all the boxes because we are not opposed to electrification. I mean, the gold standard is zero emissions, zero carbon emissions on a clean grid, right? That's the gold standard. We agree with that. But we're not going to get there by next week or next month or, quite frankly, within the next few decades. So it really makes sense to use, particularly in diesel applications, low carbon alternatives, which exist, which I'll explain in a minute. And I'll talk more about exactly what clean fuels is. But as I mentioned, I really think we check all the boxes: better performance, immediate cost savings, lower emissions, and positive economic impacts. If I said to you, if you go to California and you have a diesel vehicle or diesel truck, not that you're looking for fossil diesel because you wouldn't even know what you're getting because the pumps are the same, the vehicles are the same, but it is harder now to get fossil diesel in California than it is non-fossil diesel. Almost 75% of the transportation on-road market in California, and that's a heck of a lot of gallons. California's, fifth largest economy in the country, in the world. Almost 75% of the on-road diesel is now fossil fuel free. Rudolph Diesel was a great guy. I don't know if you've read about him, but if you have a chance, he was kind of an everyman. And he envisioned a type of engine that based on compression as opposed to ignition that really could, back when he invented it, keep people away from the Seven Sisters, from so-called big oil. He wanted something that agricultural products could fuel. And so he designed the diesel engine. So when you think of diesel fuel, diesel kind of has a dirty connotation, but diesel does not have to be fossil diesel. It does not have to be fossil diesel. And so if I say to you, 75% of the on-road diesel in California is now fossil fuel free. If I say to you, and many of you know this, if you go to New York City, every single one of the diesel vehicles on and off road, so that's those trash trucks that are also used as plows, it's police, it's fire engines, which have to get to their destination, it's construction equipment. Every single over 12,000 pieces of equipment now are using non-fossil diesel. That started last October. And there are examples all over the country where low-carbon fuels, low-carbon diesel, is being used. And back 30 plus years ago, farmers got together in the Midwest and said, you know what? There's a portion of the soybean that is a waste product, and we feel that can fuel a diesel engine. So that was kind of the beginning of the diesel industry. Now the feedstocks, as I'll explain in a minute, are varied. But it started out with a group of farmers who basically said 80% of that soybean is used for protein. Of the 20% that's left, some of that is used for soy, oil, and others, but the rest of it was a waste product. Now, that waste product is being used productively to produce biomass-based diesel. I think Jitterbug needs to make a clicker, so remember the Jitterbug phones that your father used to use with the big print? Well, I'm your father. Okay. So we started back in the early years, I think around 2010, with about a 500 million gallon a year market. And that has increased now. We're up to 3 billion gallons by 2020. We were up to 5 billion gallons last year. Our goal is 6 billion gallons by 2030, and that's EIA, actually. That's not just us. And 15 billion gallons by 2050. I think we'll far exceed that. As I said, last year alone, we were up to 5 billion gallons. So this is not a boutique fuel. It's been around for a while. And again, as I said before, I think we really check all the boxes. It's a homegrown product. We do import some feedstocks, but generally most of it is produced and made here in the United States, and it helps our farmers and it helps our local economy. 3 types of biomass-based diesel. I won't go into the details, but because I couldn't explain it even if you wanted me to. But biodiesel is a product that is produced through a transesterification process, which is a simple chemical reaction. Biodiesel is typically blended with fossil diesel or with renewable diesel. Renewable diesel is a drop-in product. There's a renewable diesel truck or Sprague's right outside that hauls renewable diesel that is essentially a drop-in product at any blend level. You can use it R100 in any heating furnace, in any truck, in any off-road vehicle. And that's the majority of what's being used in California now. And then the third is sustainable aviation fuel, and which obviously is a growing market. And here's the benefit. We all know the need to reduce emissions immediately. On average, and this is on average, you get a 70% reduction immediately when you start using biomass-based diesel. There's an obvious economic impact, and this is the most important part, I think, particularly now, since people are so cost-conscious, as they should be, that it is not turned out to be more expensive for the retail customer. And one of the things I like to talk about with the health are the health benefits of biodiesel. So we know we get the immediate carbon reduction, but we also get other benefits because other co-pollutants like PM, particulate matter, which was that black stuff you used to see from diesel engines. The diesel engines are a lot better, but so is the fuel. So when you start using biomass-based diesel, you get immediate reductions. And there are studies that show this, including studies of New York Harbor. When it's used, particularly in transportation, there are dramatic increases or decreases in things you can measure. We all talk about carbon reduction, and what does that mean? Well, it means not only carbon reduction, but the other co-pollutant reductions means fewer sick people, fewer cancer cases, fewer lost jobs, fewer deaths, and these are a particular benefit to the environmental justice communities, which are adversely impacted by diesel emissions. And again, market potential, there's a lot of potential for us out there. 7 billion gallons for marine, 4 for rail, aviation 24. We're about 10% of the diesel market for transportation now, but that's a 45 billion gallon market. And by the way, for renewable diesel particularly, as I said earlier, it's a drop in fuel. You don't have to do anything to your trucks. For biodiesel, typically it's blended with either renewable diesel or fossil diesel at 20%. Again, no retrofitting needed, but all the major engine manufacturers now are gearing their engines towards being able to use B100. And already, fuel burners now, home heating appliances, furnaces, I should say, most of the major manufacturers now are manufacturing to B100 standards. I mentioned earlier we have steady growth in the industry. We started off at 500 million. We're up to 5 billion now. And the primary feedstock is soy, but used cooking oil used to be thrown away by restaurants. Now it's a valued product. And there are other products that are all waste products, so no food for fuel issues like there is in ethanol. And again, when we grow protein, we help everybody up and down the food chain. Running out of time, so I get a minute. I have to say that the product probably would not exist if it wasn't for federal tax incentives. And we all know about the uncertainty in Washington, but one thing we know is for sure that these federal tax incentives and incentives to produce renewable fuels, they aren't going away. And you remember George Bush, 43, signed the Renewable Fuels Standard Bill back in 2005 and 2007. That has done a tremendous amount to spur the entire renewable fuel industry. That is not going away, as is the credit for blending and for the producer's credit. Again, what's happening in the state level really, including New York, is really more significant. You can look at all these states. I used to live in New Hampshire, live free, die state. God forbid anyone tell them what to do. But for the rest of the world, they have some type of incentive either for blending or for infrastructure or mandates. Like you have here in New York, there is a B5 mandate now for all heating oil. That goes up in July to B10, and then in another 5 years it goes up to B20. So I'm going to leave you with one thought, which I think is most important. You know, we may disagree in what the road should look like to reduce carbon emissions. But one thing I think we all agree on is we need to start doing it now. The UN says that, scientists say that, and we're already behind the 8 ball. So we feel, as I said at the beginning, that we are in a sweet spot because if you start using biomass-based diesel, whether it's sustainable aviation fuel, biodiesel, renewable diesel, you start reducing carbon emissions immediately. And call it a bridge fuel. I'm fine with it. It's a pretty long bridge because we're going to be using liquid fuels for the foreseeable future. So again, I appreciate this opportunity. I'd love to stick around. Unfortunately, there is a biodiesel bill being heard in Connecticut, and I have to run back to the room to get online to testify on that virtually. But this is a great group, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
So again, no infrastructure changes, right? Drop in renewable diesel today for 100,000 homes for all the diesel transportation that we got going on in the county, reduce emissions, reduce carbon, have a positive impact, and take us one step forward towards where we want to be. All right, outside, by the way, there's a biodiesel demonstration showing all the different blends. And now we got a quick video from our recruitment chair, one of our recruitment co-chairs.
Hi, I'm Mike Corso from Ruvio Solar. Ruvio Solar is a solar consultancy. We advise commercial building owners regarding the many remarkable incentives that exist to switch over to solar. I joined the Clean Energy Action Coalition and am part of the recruitment committee. And my goal with the Clean Energy Action Coalition is to educate as many people as possible across Westchester County and New York State regarding the many wonderful opportunities that exist to switch to solar. And hopefully with the coalition, we will be able to advance New York's ambitious climate law goals over the next several years. So altogether, I think we have a great opportunity in front of us, and I'm just very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. All right, So we heard from Sam's of Gedney Way how they increased business by 30% and reduced their cost by 50%, even with all the rate increases that we're all subject to and concerned about. We've seen how schools can improve efficiency, reduce operating costs, and become more sustainable with alternative financing. And we're going to hear more about financing later. And how the Yonkers Housing Authority built multifamily apartments to passive home standards and is also overcoming a leaking gas main by moving to full electrification. Lots of options, lots of case studies along this spectrum. But now let's hear George Parth, the Senior VP at Regeneron, talk about how one of the county's largest and most prestigious corporations has created a collaborative environment that balances the long and short-term needs and capabilities of Regeneron's growing business, all while keeping a focus on their core mission. George.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, John, for having me here today. I am absolutely super excited to be here, and we've heard so many interesting things already this morning. Look forward to another couple of hours of great dialogue. So, although Regeneron has been a staple in Westchester for 35 plus years, I can't assume that everyone knows what Regeneron does. I've been with Regeneron about 10 years, and I made the mistake once where I was up in front of a crowd, and when I was done with my presentation, probably about 10 or 15 people came up to me and said, what is Regeneron? Who are you? And so I said, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So let me tell you a little bit about Regeneron. Regeneron is a leading biotech company that invents, develops, and commercializes life-transforming medicines for people with serious diseases. We are at the forefront of biotech research with our unique ability to repeatedly and consistently translate science into medicine. We operate and develop state-of-the-art research and production facilities with a large and growing presence in Westchester. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And we are guided by our corporate philosophy of doing well by doing good. We have three strategic areas that we focus on. One, improving the lives of people with serious diseases. Two, fostering a culture of integrity and excellence. And three, building sustainable communities, which I will talk a little bit about today. Three areas that I want to focus on are our Tarrytown campus expansion. Our research and development headquarters is located in Tarrytown, and we're undergoing a huge, massive expansion of about 1 million square feet of research and development space. Second, I'll talk a little bit about green building designs, not only in our new construction, but also in our existing complex. And last, I'll talk a little bit about our Green Lab sustainability efforts. So Regeneron has been a leader in sustainability, and note that Regeneron has been incorporating green initiatives and efficiencies into its existing campuses as well as the design for our new campus. And up on the screen here, if you look at everything that is in the green dotted lines, that is all new. We began construction back in 2022. And we finished, if you go from left to right on the screen, we finished our daycare center, which we're calling Area 2. Area 1 is about 3 months from being completed, which is our preclinical manufacturing facility, which is about 300,000 square feet. And then all the way to the right, you'll see Area 3 and 4. Area 3 is currently under construction. We're about 3 years away from occupying that research building, and Area 4 is for future expansion. So some of the things that we're looking at, we are implementing many different energy strategies across the campus, again, both in our existing complex as well as our newly constructed facilities. First, solar panels, right? We heard a lot about solar panels already today. We just completed our parking garage that has solar panels on the roof of the garage, which is actually going to offset about 10% of the new building it's adjacent to, which is due to open in about 3 months. And it's a preclinical manufacturing facility, which is a heavy energy user. We have our daycare facility, which it's an all-electric facility, and we have solar panels on the roof of that building also, and that should offset about 80% of the power coming into the daycare facility. Then, of course, the new buildings that'll come online over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, wherever there's a roof that we can put solar panels on, we obviously will. And yes, we heard a little bit about incentives today. There is incentives to help with the capital investment and to make your ROI a little bit more attractive with solar panels through NYSERDA. Tier 4 generators, so demand response, we heard a little bit about that today. Demand response programs are essentially incentivizing electricity consumers to reduce their energy usage during peak demands. Okay, so we rely heavily on keeping our labs up and running, and in order to do that, we have to have backup power. And the backup power keeps us going in the event of any kind of catastrophic failures or loss of power. We have critical things going on in our laboratories, and in order to do that, you need generators. And we do have what we call Tier 4 generators, and what they are essentially is they're generators that reduce emissions that are emitted from each of the generators, mostly NOx and particulate matters in our diesel generators. And you know, we're real happy that we're able to do that. So we minimize the ugly stuff that comes out of the generators, and we're able to also keep our business functioning. I mentioned the demand response programs. We are a part of the demand response programs in Westchester with Con Edison. And just in 2024 alone, we responded to six requests to come off the grid so we can have some stable and reliable power throughout Westchester and other areas of the country. New York Recharge program, all the way to the right. Yes, we do work with the New York Power Authority since mid-2022 at our Sleepy Hollow campus, and we committed to invest about $5 million in capital improvements for the site. And additionally, Regeneron is committed to maintaining a staffing level of about 500 employees. And with that, we received 1.7 million kilowatt hours of hydropower from New York Power Authority since we entered the program, which we're very proud of. Okay, let's turn to some green buildings designs. First, we have heat recovery chillers, which reduces the hot water boilage usage, which also reduces CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions. We have electric vehicle charging stations. We just opened up our garage that I talked about a couple of minutes ago. We have over 60 EV charging stations in the garage alone, and we'll continue to do that as we build more parking garages on campus. Generally speaking, electrochromic glass, right? That's something relatively new. It's glass made up of a series of nano coatings that react to an electrical charge to create different levels of tint. So essentially, you don't need shades on your windows, and it's a smart glass essentially that can reduce energy loads between 5 and 15% and reduce peak energy loads up to 26% just with these window installations. So we began using this type of technology about 6 years ago in its early inception, and now we're incorporating it into all of our new campuses as well. And I already spoke to the electrical, full electrical facility for our daycare center. So next, inside our labs, for example, we have what we call Green Labs certification. Generally speaking, we have 3 goals. Our goal is to contribute to reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in our labs, reduce water consumption, and reduce waste. We want knowledge sharing across our scientists in our laboratories, and we want to establish a framework to assess performance and identify gaps and opportunities. We currently have 16 labs that are certified, which is about 1/3 of what we have on campus right now. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we're heading in the right direction. We have about 50 labs on site today. Let's see here, what else? So on the right, you'll see we have over 15,000 pieces of lab equipment across our campus, which is substantial. And we find ways to better utilize that equipment. And it's simple ways. It's nothing critical. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is one instrument that uses a great amount of electricity. And we found ways to use it only during times of need, and then keeping it shut off during times where we really obviously don't need it. Water consumption is another big area that is very easy to manage our water consumption, and we've done so by just putting aerators in a lot of our water flow systems, and we've already saved about over 38,000 gallons of water a year. And then of course our recycling effort. For all the plastics that we do use in laboratories, we try to recycle and reuse wherever we can. And last, on the right, you'll see we're very proud of some of the recognition that Regeneron has received over the years with the awards that are noted on the right. And on the left, if you kind of focus right smack dab in the middle of the page, you'll see our production of renewable power goal to meet our long-term electricity needs. But essentially, we want to be at 50% renewable power by 2025, which is this year, and 100% of our electricity consumption by 2035 via renewable sources. So let's as I finish here, let's continue to speak, listen, and learn from each other. I think these conferences are absolutely essential to these types of concerns we have in our world today. So again, let's continue to speak, listen, and learn, and enjoy the rest of your session. Thank you very much.
All right, so many people don't realize that you don't have to come up with all the capital up front to do a lot of these projects. We heard from various different people about performance contracts, where a third party puts up the capital and then you pay for it out of savings. There's a lot of different ways of making this happen. Across the board, all technologies have various different financing mechanisms. We're going to hear now from 2 individuals who are leading to create, for the Clean Energy Action Coalition, a central source for conventional financing and leasing, but also Robert Withers and Frank Owens are sharing some alternative means to reduce upfront capital pain.
I'm Frank Owens. Good afternoon. My name is Robert Withers, and we're here to present to you today at the CEAC. And Frank, take it away. So we are here to present 2 financing options. The first is C-PACE financing that I will present. I'm with Thompson Partners. I've been a BCW member since 2013, $20 million energy financings. The second will be the SBA 504 Green Loan Program. bought by Robert Withers, who's been a BCW member as well. So first, CPACE stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. What is it? It's financing for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects where energy savings are used to cover loan payments and loans are repaid through property tax assessments. It's used for HVAC, boilers, lighting, windows, solar, geothermal, etc. How is it different? Importantly, it is non-recourse to borrowers, terms up to 20 to 30 years, prepayable, subject to declining payoff fees, property types, all commercial, hotels, office, retail, industrial, including multifamily residential, nonprofits, including private schools, renovations and new construction, and also can be used to retroactively finance completed projects. How much? In New York State, roughly $2 million today with possible exceptions, maximum. $89 million is the largest CPACE deal done in New York State. $220 million is the largest CPACE deal done in the United States. Challenges and solutions. Challenge, it requires consent from the property first mortgage lender. Solution, there's growing acceptance by lenders. Hundreds of financial institutions have consented to CPACE loans. Over 2,000 deals closed in the USA, totaling $9 billion, as shown in the chart to the right. And in New York State, the CPACE market is growing, 35 deals totaling $125 million through 2024. So with that, Ron, take it away.
Hi, guys. So what is an SBA 504 green loan? The green loan is $5.5 million in added loan proceeds over $5 million as an SBA max at below market rates for borrowers. So effectively, a borrower can borrow up to $10 million on a project using a 504 green loan. It's for new building acquisitions and existing building improvements. And if solar energy or the only caveat is if solar energy or energy efficiency measures are used. The requirements, it's got to be a new building, 15% of energy usage from solar or other renewables, and on existing buildings, 10% reduction in energy use from LED lighting, other energy efficiency measures, solar or other renewables. Other requirements are an energy audit prepared by an electrical engineer with an energy certificate who works in federal software, a proposal for installation of the renewable energy resource or energy efficiency reduction for existing buildings, and both the energy audit and proposals are required to be sent into the SBA with the application. What does it cost? As little as $5,000 for an energy audit and proposal. Amount is reimbursed. That amount is reimbursable if a borrower signs a contract to install the project, and all customary SBA 504 closing costs. Next steps for you, visit the BCW website at bcw.org. Locate either Frank or myself at our companies within the directory. Join BCW's Clean Energy Action Coalition, and that's an important one. Collaborate with BCW members to reduce energy expenses and accelerate clean energy adoption. Thank you all for attending.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we need New York Power Authority to transmit power from upstate down. Need Con Ed to keep evolving our electric distribution system so that we can both have local distributed renewable energy resources around us. And most of us need bridge fuels, just bridge the gap and make sure that we keep the heat on as we're making this transition and investing in the infrastructure. But how can we reduce energy costs as we add electric load between computers and data centers and all the electricity needs that we have, plus electrify our heating system and transportation systems, plus add local energy resources to maintain power during extreme weather events, which are becoming more and more often. I'd like to introduce Maria Fields, who has 15 years' experience in advanced building technology and the grid transition as she leads Sprocket Power's strategy, business development, and partnerships with Sprocket Power's infrastructure as a service offerings. Maria.
Hi, thanks everybody. So here's my clicker. So Maria Fields, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sprocket Power. We are a Westchester-based company. We work in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and in California. And what we do is we build clean energy systems to support primarily electrification and especially in transportation electrification. And that is it's a big deal. It's a topic of conversation, even in kind of mainstream conversation. You can hear discussions of we need to slow down, the grid can't handle it, we don't have enough power to do what we need to do. And I'm here to say that it is a challenge, but there are solutions available, and we'll talk about a case study here that is an example of that. So the nature of adding electric vehicle charging to a commercial building is that, that they are designed to pull energy, and a DC fast charger is going to pull energy quickly. And that is a big deal for the grid, Con Ed has to back that up. And it is a challenge. And so I was on a panel recently with someone from Con Ed who remarked that a commercial building that puts in a substantial amount of EV charging looks to the grid more like a small hospital or an apartment building. And, and that's a big deal. So you're talking about taking a building with maybe a typical Westchester commercial building, maybe 50, 100 kilowatts of peak demand, and you're adding 100 or 200 kilowatts of EV charging alone. And those are what we call in the business a spiky load, so they're quite painful. And as I often say, the pain is felt on both sides of the meter. Con Ed has to meet this load, but Con Ed also, I'm sure everyone in this building has become more familiar with demand charges over the past few years. Demand is expensive. Con Ed charges for demand about $35 or $40 a kilowatt a month. And so you're talking about adding, $3,500, $7,000 of increased demand charges to a utility bill just to run this charger. And P.S., you only have to run it a little bit to feel that. So, and one of the things about demand is really, that's the way that Con Ed or that portion of the bill is how Con Ed pays for its infrastructure, its upkeep of the infrastructure and build out. And so, and demand has been going up. Demand used to be about a third of a bill. It's now more like 60% of a bill. And so, that's a big deal. And for the sites that are putting this charging in, it's a big deal. And so one of the things I would say is it doesn't have to be this way. There are technical solutions that are available now that can create a better outcome for everyone. And that's really what this project does. It takes the kind of, and just to go back, I would say 50, 20, 10 years ago, Con Ed would have met that increased demand by building up kind of hard infrastructure assets. The transmission, distribution, generation would have gone on to the grid, and that's something we all pay for, as I pointed out. And so that, to meet this extra demand through that mechanism would be a lost opportunity and expensive for all of us. And so what this project does is it really creates a system that relieves grid stress and actually supports the local grid. And one of the interesting things about a project that's out in what I'd call the edge of the grid is that it creates systemic benefits throughout. If you're building, the grid is a bit like a seesaw. If you're building something in the middle, it's got to be fairly large. If you're building something, out at the edge, it can be smaller and create tremendous value. So this project generates solar energy. It stores that energy in a battery, and that battery becomes the primary resource for the EV charging. The battery can also shift the solar energy to peak times and provide capacity to the grid. It can feed back into the grid and support demand response programs. So the battery is really the key tool here. And I would also point out a project like this, it's really the cloud-based optimization and management of all the resources behind the grid, behind the meter that create the value. And in the wisdom of New York energy policy, a project like this is compensated really for its performance. So some of the economic value you see that comes from a project like this, which has a nice payback of under 5 years, which is very attractive. A lot of that comes from capital offsets that we're all used to. You put in something and you get a little bit of capital back from NYSERDA or Con Ed. But a substantial part of the value comes from operating a system like this within the grid. And that's really what's novel about this. So you're looking at what would have been a demand profile for this site of 80 kilowatts. They were using 80 kilowatts. Con Ed only saw 20 kilowatts. So that demand reduction is a key part of the economic value that a project like this brings. It's dropping their utility bill down. It's also exporting into the grid at times that the grid is under stress and getting paid through VETR credits, demand response programs, things like that. And also, producing a nice greenhouse gas reduction benefit for the local, for Bedford 2030, who's kind of the local sustainability group. So, this project, when you're looking at it, it's now their utility bill is lower than it was before they put in EV charging. It's going to be 84% below what it would be with the EV charging. And we're seeing that, play out. This project has about 6 months of performance now. And, so that's a deeply valuable project. It reduces the host site's energy bill and holds that. It makes it more predictable. We've all seen these kind of spiky energy bills lately. So, so it is a very valuable project, but it's somewhat rare still. And the reason is that it's complex. And really the key value is in integrating available technology into this, this system that modulates according to the grid economics. A fun project that was done on this site was through CERNI Purchase. A couple of students designed this wrap on the battery. And, so in a way, this actually came out of the planning process at the town of Bedford, that they wanted the project up front and they wanted it to be, something that was kind of demonstrated and engage people in sort of performance. And so this part of the battery says, I make clean charges. And this QR code now connects to some educational information about the battery. It will also connect to this performance platform that'll be part of the website for Sprocket Power and also for the host there. So a few takeaways from this. It's, again, it's you can't set it and forget it. You can't stick this stuff in, plug it in, and expect something good to happen. It's really about connecting the system and having an oversight that is aware of the grid economics, aware of the performance of the building, and can begin to learn and modulate to create this value. One note is a project like this can be financed through a performance contract. It is complex. We can take that complexity on and finance this through performance. So again, the key lies in integration, measurement, and control. One of the interesting things for the Business Council of Westchester is that we work very closely with electrical contractors, with design professionals, many of them BCW members, to install these. These are a big deal and nice work for people. And just on a final note, I know permitting is a challenge, and I think there's been a lot of more education to do. Just on a hopeful note, I would say that we actually just had the fire inspector for the town of Bedford to come out again and kind of look at this site. When we had this permitted about a year ago, it was really our initiative to kind of reach out to the fire department and educate them about what the project was. And so I think that the state has now undergone a really smart process to help educate towns and jurisdictions. We're now permitting 7 batteries in New York, and having that educational platform and kind of a best practices has been invaluable. And I would also say that these local fire departments I'm now on a couple of these committees, and they're very, professional, they're very up to date now. So this fire inspector that had come out a few weeks ago, he's done a lot of this. He really understands what he's looking for. So that is, it's a good step and a hopeful thing for the future. And I would also say that it's the nature of technology to continue to improve. The battery that you see here, we're putting in a location out in Long Island. It's about half the size, and all of these batteries have now moved to a lithium iron phosphate chemistry, and so they're not, it's a safer chemistry, and that it's generally kind of predominating in the industry. So, we're happy to be kind of treading new ground here and paving the way. Projects like this should be kind of everywhere in Westchester. This is the kind of commercial building stock that we have really everywhere. And so it's a very beneficial project to both the owner and to the grid. So thank you.
Thanks, Maria. So you get that? You have a high-speed DC fast charger that does 100 kW, and you do one charge, 15 minutes, Con Ed charges you $3,500. It takes a lot of kilowatt hours to make that up. Without a battery storage, without a microgrid, basically we're going to dramatically increase cost, even as we're striving to reduce them with all the different technologies. All right, Jack and Mackenzie still here? Jack, Mackenzie? No? Okay, sorry. So Genesis Realty is on our social media, and they're going to be on the website as well. They're bringing thousands of units of experience in New York City with Local Law 97 and the penalties that businesses are getting hit with, all different types of buildings, actually, through Local Law 97. And one of the things that they found is that by getting ahead of it, you can have excellent return on investments, avoid the penalties, and have a positive impact. But to do that, you have to be at the table. So one of the things I heard Tim Foley say the other night to his members at the Building Realty Institute was, if you're not sitting at the table, you're on the menu. All right, so now we're going to hear from the Model Local Law Roadmap Chairs. Tony Joffrey is a dirt lawyer, quote unquote, a managing partner of Cuddy & Fader who represents developers, businesses, and institutions in navigating complex regulatory and environmental approval processes. And Leo Wiegman is the former mayor of Croton-on-Hudson, and he now leads Sustainable Westchester's efforts to rapidly expand solar and energy storage capability. And I want to give a shout out to Sustainable Westchester and Leo in particular for tremendous data and support in this whole conference. And we're looking forward to working with you guys as collaborative partners to bring out what is now this piece. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, good afternoon. Everybody was talking about good morning, but we're now at that point of the day. So I'd like to thank Marcia and John for the leadership in getting us to this point, and certainly Dan, my man, Mike Murphy. And I really have to give some kudos to the passion and clean energy that Ron brings to the table. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. We've heard a lot of great information about these amazing clean energy technologies today. And while there are numerous different technologies that are available, due to the current environment and the limited focus and the only 15 minutes that we had, our committee decided to focus on solar and battery energy storage systems. The transition to increased clean energy grid is inevitable and is absolutely necessary. There's no question that energy costs are climbing and climbing steeply, and there's a need for all types of systems, small, medium-sized, and large systems. And as you can see in the news, there are significant needs for solar and BESS systems in Westchester and beyond. And as a result, considerable efforts to make these technologies available are necessary. These efforts are and the perceived issues surrounding them, particularly solar and BESS, have been garnering a lot of attention in the media. Unfortunately, the deployment of these technologies are not without challenges. We've all heard the term NIMBY. I like to use cave people, citizens against virtually everything, misinformation and false narrative issues, fake news, And certainly what's on the menu today, moratoria, and more moratoria. It needs to be our collective goal to overcome these challenges in order to accelerate deployment and the adoption of better clean energy policies. And Leo is going to walk you through a little bit more of that.
Thank you, Tony. So as we heard earlier, Westchester is home to about 14,000 solar systems today, and for each one, the energy production peaks in midday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. However, given our county's demographics as a suburb, our energy use peaks later in the day than in that 4 to 8 p.m. window, what I like to call the supper bump, when we all come home and turn everything on. And that makes battery energy storage in the yellow highlight here especially valuable here in our part of the grid to shift the solar energy harvested at midday for later use past the solar peak. How much energy storage do we have today? Today we have about 30 megawatts of dispatchable battery energy storage in Westchester County. By that, I'm not referring to small residential home batteries, but instead what New York State calls retail and bulk energy storage systems. Of that 30 megawatts, only 7 megawatts are in operation in the green on this chart, with the balance of 23 megawatts in the development pipeline, which are these larger blue projects. And these projects have state approval, NYSERDA state approval, but are under local review or under local moratorium. How does New York State compare on battery energy storage? Of New York State's climate goals, now the law of the land, as we heard earlier, the battery storage target is 6 gigawatts by 2030. Today, the state is only 15% of the way toward that goal. You'll notice that the installed storage capacity each year had a peak in 2022, and that annual installed amount plummeted in 2023 and 2024. In short, we're going in the wrong direction statewide. So how much battery storage do we need by 2030 in Westchester County? If we're to meet Westchester's share of the statewide 2030 goal, we need to increase the battery storage capacity and thereby the injection from that battery storage by 600% in less than 5 years. So that big red arrow is where we have to go. The blue bars here are the installed capacity of power for 2025 and then in 2030, respectively. And the orange bars are the resulting grid injection in terms of megawatt hours of energy available on a daily basis from that capacity. So what does battery storage look like that can meet that growth curve? Earlier, we mentioned that battery storage can come in different sizes. So let's call them small, medium, and large, each with a different use case. The one on the left is the 10 kilowatt hour battery hanging in my basement. It's about the size of a small refrigerator, and it helps keep key circuits lit during power outages, which are fairly common here in Croton. Well, Croton's across the river, a half mile from here, but you get the picture. In the middle are the medium-sized energy storage systems that are about the size of a small storage pod, or about the size of the unit that Maria just showed us from Sprocket Power at Vail GMC in Bedford. Less than one parking spot of space. A great use case for medium storage would be a car dealer that installs a level 3 DC fast charger for EVs it wants to sell, but it wants to avoid thousands of dollars of monthly demand charges. Finally, the large battery storage system on the right, it comes in shipping container sizes, and the use case for this grid injection is often as a community distributed generation project. The picture here is about a mile from here at the Croton-Harmon train station parking lot. So let's take a closer look at that site. The Village of Croton-on-Hudson owns and operates a large commuter lot with 2,000 parking spaces. Very soon, that integrated battery storage and energy solar and energy storage system there will go live, creating the largest such project sited to date on local government property. Due to fortuitous timing that began 5 years ago, when the incentives peaked, the village's lease will earn $480,000 per year for 20 years from this development. About half the parking area is covered with 12 different solar canopies that will shade 1,100 cars. The solar covering the 10 acres contributes $120,000 to the annual lease payment. However, the battery storage on the left, over here with those 4 shipping container units, and the accompanying pad-mounted equipment will contribute $360,000 to the annual payment, while using only 1/2 acre, or about 25 parking spots. In other words, the village traded the loss of 25 parking spots of revenue for the very significant contribution of the battery storage unit to their annual lease value. So let's sum up. Westchester's electricity use is growing, think electric vehicles, and peaks after the solar peak in the 4 to 8 p.m. supper bump window. That makes battery storage very valuable in our geography. If every battery storage project in the pipeline is completed, we'll still need to increase capacity by 600% in the next 4.5 years to cover our fair share of the statewide target. While small to medium storage is very helpful for behind-the-meter purposes, the large battery storage projects like Croton's are needed to reach our growth target. We know from Croton's example that the per acre value of battery storage can be 6 times higher than PV alone. We want PV, photovoltaics, but many times adding battery storage really enhances the project economics for both the developer and the site host. If we located just 26 large battery storage projects on large parking lots, we would hit our 600% target. That seems pretty reasonable. If we use just small residential projects to get to that same capacity, we would need 26,000 homeowners to install those. Of course, we should do both. Hey, and did anyone know that Westchester County has 12,300 parking lots that are paved? So obviously, they're all shown in blue on this map from the County Planning Department. The majority of these lots are quite small, of course, but many of them are still quite large. So food for thought. What if 300 out of these 12,300 parking lots became locations for both battery storage and solar to feed the batteries? As a guide for municipalities, New York has published model local law language for battery storage. It suggests local governments structure permitting and approvals by segregating battery energy storage into 2 tiers, under 600 kilowatts and over 600 kilowatts. A number of municipalities, 3 of them specifically, have adopted local battery storage laws that follow the 2-tier approach. Those are the Village of Briarcliff, the Village of Croton, and the town of Austining. 3 additional jurisdictions have adopted battery storage local laws that add a 3rd tier, carving out the small battery storage under 80 kilowatts as of right in my basement, for example, with the 2 tiers above that requiring greater local scrutiny. Now, how has all this played out across Westchester's 43 cities, towns, and villages that issue building permits? These, shown in gray here, are the local governments that have adopted neither a local law for ground-mounted solar or battery storage, so they're still waiting to see what to do. The ones in yellow here have adopted a local law on siting local larger solar projects, so they've made a first step. The ones in green here have adopted local laws on siting both solar projects and battery storage projects, so kudos to the green folks. Meanwhile, 7 jurisdictions have a moratorium in place on the approval of battery storage projects. These are shown in pink. There's one mistake. Portchester is actually coming off this list. They just adopted a local battery storage law, but I only found that out Friday after I delivered the final slides, so it's a moving environment. And one jurisdiction has actually placed a moratorium on both solar approvals and battery storage. So this highly variable local regulatory environment presents real challenges for developers and investors seeking to make projects happen in Westchester. So congrats to Portchester for taking itself off the pink list here. And local governments should use my office at Sustainable Westchester as a resource in dealing with local laws. We can help advise you on what other communities have done and go into great detail for you on that. Now, I mentioned parking lots. For example, if we parking lots, here we go. If we could find 300 large parking lots for battery storage and solar and battery storage projects, out of the 12,300, that would generate $330 million in local workforce development labor in the next 5 years, out of a total of $1.2 billion of overall investment. The state's strong incentives for both battery storage and solar, coupled with federal tax incentives that are at an all-time high, mean there's never been a better time. If we do nothing, energy costs will spiral under business as usual. Electricity rates for homeowners and small businesses have already doubled in the last 10 years, and Con Edison has already filed a rate increase with request with the Public Services Commission for an 18% increase starting January 1st, 2026. Large battery storage projects can reduce risk on the local grid, which in turn curbs the need for expensive grid upgrades by the utility. The economic case for battery storage projects in Westchester is a slam dunk win for consumers, for site hosts, for developers, and the utilities. Thank you. Back to you, Tony.
So as we've heard today, and as certainly in just reviewing any media, the state of entitlements has been and continues to be more challenging. That said, we need more solar, we need more battery storage, and we need it as fast as possible. The good news is there is a path to realizing the goal and making these technologies available, and certainly in a more expedient way than the current environment permits. We heard, and interestingly, Maria's takeaways are very similar to what our group came up with. We need to find a better way to achieve our goals, and as an outgrowth of this conference, we need to utilize different strategies and create resources and examples for reference. We need to prepare educational resources such as a model local law, a climate action plan, best practices, and a digestible white paper to address common objections and responses. We need to find a better way to achieve these goals, to dispel misinformation commonly found in social media, work with professionals like the local fire departments that have the training in order to recognize the effectiveness and safety of solar and BESS. And we need to continue our investment in leadership like the BCW to partner with communities. That's critically important, to partner with communities to achieve economic and resiliency goals that will benefit everyone. Thank you.
Nice job, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Leo and Tony. There's a lot of different focuses that we're going to be doing as the Clean Energy Action Coalition over the next bunch of months going into the year, but one of the key ones is going out to municipalities, the 43 different municipalities that have different rules, regulations, but have jurisdiction over what gets permitted, what happens, and what doesn't, as you saw before. So please join us. But at the same time, we're also proud to have the Westchester County Economic Development folks as a conference sponsor, and thankful especially for the tireless work of the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board, who are helping us develop the skills and talents to bring these technologies out and actually have them work.
Tom Kleiner, Director of the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board and co-chair of the Workforce Committee of this great initiative. And I know how critical it is to identify candidates who can take advantage of the training necessary to achieve fulfilling clean energy careers and enhance our local economy. We are totally committed to doing this, and we're going to get it done. So I'm honored to be a part.
All right, Angela and Antoine, you guys ready? You got this piece? Let's see what you came up with.
Wow. Okay, we are back. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who came by our booth and contributed and just kind of started mapping out where you are. What we wanted to do is actually come back up here and do a little quick synthesis, right? And I'm sure as we kind of go back, we can see a lot of other patterns. But there were, I think it's a live link. If y'all could open that up. We did the synthesis live, so we'll see if the Google slide has updated. And if it hasn't, I can kind of provide a verbal update, right, and synthesis of what we learned. And then I think maybe through Ron or through the group, we will, actually, there we go. If we could go back to the beginning. Slide 2. Awesome, yay, technology. Okay, if you could go into slideshow mode. Amazing. Okay, so this is a digitized version of what you put on the board. And we'll find a way to kind of share this back with you all so you can kind of zoom in and actually look at the words. But we saw a couple things, right? Well, one, there's a really strong business representation here. So majority of the stakeholders that were kind of mapped out onto this board were businesses. And we kind of saw a couple different things. If you could click next. Amazing. The first one was that there's a really great representation of businesses across all 4 sectors, right? In the clean energy sector, in the electrical vertical. And I think maybe to some, that's not a surprise. To us, we're like, okay, that was really great to see a great representation. If you click next. And then within the thermal vertical, we saw strong representation, right, of biofuels and geothermal companies. So we're like, okay, that's really interesting, but what happens when we start to overlay some of the workforce and training organization data we looked at earlier? So if you could click, next please. There were a couple different, just to remind us, there were a couple different themes we saw. If you click next. Right, we saw in the training sector, there's actually a really big clustering in trainings in electric energy efficiency. If you click next. But we saw, we've now done this exercise with over 30 different organizations and training organizations across New York. We generally see a pretty big gap, actually, in the electric transportation and storage sector. And then if you click next, and then even less interest maybe, and honestly, understanding of thermal systems outside of energy efficiency within the kind of training space. And we hear this a lot when we run the training programs for workforce developers. Maybe a lot of people are familiar with the electrification and electrical systems, but the fact that there are thermal systems and a lot of companies in that vertical is actually something that's not as well understood, right? So we wanted to kind of bring these two, and if you could click next. And we put them side by side, right? So on the left there are the employers and businesses that participated today. Again, thank you. And then on the right-hand side are the workforce trainer organizations, and this is kind of a more illustrative comparison. But if you could click next time a couple times, as we saw, really strong representation of businesses in the electric vertical, but a pretty big gap in the training organizations and the ones that are actually doing training in the renewable energy and clean transportation under the electric. And then similarly, a pretty big mismatch, right, of the thermal employers and businesses that are out there that need the workforce and talent, but not as many training organizations that kind of understand and train in that space. So if you could just click through for the rest. So we wanted to just share back a few observations, right? As mentioned, great distribution of businesses across all 4 electric sectors, but that's not necessarily represented in the workforce sector. So something we're thinking about, and we'd love to work with you all to kind of help facilitate, is how can we better help connect businesses in these different electric sectors with trainers, right, to fill the training gap, especially in the renewable energy and clean transportation sector, and of course, storage. And another one is, in general, thermal vertical is overall seeing a training gap. And if you know other really great training programs we should be mapping onto this board, please let us know. But that's another general theme that we wanted to pull out here. And lastly, and we saw kind of some folks using the board this way, coming by and saying, oh, hey, I'm in this sector, and I actually want to talk to other folks who are in that sector. Like, who should I go talk to? And that was actually not the main purpose of the board, but we were really happy to see that, because that means that being able to have a framework like this, where we can start to map ourselves on there, actually allows us to see who are the right collaborators and who are the right partners that I should be working with in order to figure out, maybe enter into a business together or improve what we're doing, or in general, kind of figure out ways to collaborate, right? So these are just super early insights that came out of the activity that we all did kind of throughout the morning. But thank you all for participating and for allowing us to share it back.
Okay, last stretch, last stretch. So first, I want to thank you all for coming. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Hopefully you will all also become active because this is a massive task. It's going to take all of us. It takes a county to get this stuff done. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Con Ed, New York Power Authority, Paraco, Robeson, MGM Resorts, Westchester County Economic Development, the BRI, Building Realty Institute, Geothermal Works, Select Energy, Colada Energy, MPN Boilers, OLA Consulting Engineers, Sprague, and I'm Earthkind Energy, so thank you very much for all your time. We're going to hear from John real quick. A last video from our co-chair. It's 30 seconds. Stick for that. You'll like it. And John.
Thank you very much. Let's give Ron Kamen a huge, huge hand for the work that he's done today. One of the first tasks that Marcia Gordon gave me when I joined the BCW almost 13 years ago was to oversee a commission of an independent white paper assessment on what would happen if Indian Point were to close. And the findings that we had in that paper were that there would be a reliability issue, that there could be a cost rise in electric rates and carbon emissions, as well as some major financial holes. And we sent that out to the governor and to the legislature and to stakeholders and said, let's make sure that doesn't happen. Well, it happened. Some of us aren't happy about it. Some of us wish we could have done it in a more responsible way, but it is the reality. Now we're talking about the future. Now we're talking about the challenges. And I hope for many of you today, you got a snapshot on some of the challenges that we have to make, not just in Westchester County, but throughout the state. Can we do it? Absolutely. Can we do it alone? No. It is going to have to be a collaborative effort. The presentation that you just heard on local law, that's going to be one of the biggest obstacles that we're going to have to overcome. I mean, Westchester County with the 43 different municipalities, all with different issues, all with different concerns, we're going to have to go into each of those communities. And we're going to have to continue to work to give them the most updated information on the technology, to lower the misinformation that's out there. But the point and the challenge that I'm going to give to each of these local municipalities is, if you're not going to go this route, what's your plan B? No one has a plan B. This is the future. We need to build this renewable infrastructure. And the Clean Energy Action Coalition hopefully will be a strong, vibrant mechanism to help Westchester move forward. So again, we want to thank those of you who participated today to give the most updated information that is out there. But we have a lot of work to do. We know that. More importantly, we have the resources and we have the brain power here in Westchester County. As the president of NYSERDA said to start our conference, we are a beacon right now throughout the state. So we need to keep that mantle and wear it proudly. But we have to do a lot of work to get it done. And here's a challenge that I'm going to give to all of the good government groups, to all of the environmental groups that did want to close Indian Point down. Well, they got their wish. But now we need them to go into some of these communities that have put moratoriums in place to say, stop. To say, here's the most updated information that we can provide for you to know that we can do this the right way and safely. So it is a call of action to all of us. It's a call of action to a lot of our other environmental partners. We're lucky that we have Sustainable Westchester here, and Noam Bramson and his team are going to do an incredible job to continue that effort. But there are a lot of other groups who have been on the sidelines the last few years, and we need them to join us. So thank you all for joining us. This entire conference will be on the BCW website in a matter of days, so please feel free to go back to it, to share it. If you'd like excerpts from that, let us know and we can help you. For those of you who would like to join the Clean Energy Action Coalition, the only requirement that we ask is that you be a BCW member as well. And you get more benefits from the BCW moving forward as well for your business and are part of the BCW family that continues to build relationships to help people grow their business as well. Finally, and most importantly, to our sponsors, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your efforts. I do want to again thank Dan Singer and Michael Murphy, along with Ron, who have really led the charge and to the 9 working groups who did so much work in the last few months. Incredible amount of work. And we are going to hear one more video, but we also don't want people to go home hungry, so there is a lunch to go. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to take it in the car, but drive carefully or take it back to your offices. Also, if you have the time, I think the rain has stopped. Enjoy this beautiful campus and tell people about it as well. Thank you very much. I'm sorry? I'm going to say the sponsors one more time. Sure, why not? I'm sorry? Oh, yes, and see the sponsors during lunch. But again, the presenting sponsors are Con Edison, and our contributing sponsors, EarthKine Energy Consulting, Empire City Casino by MGM, Paraco, Robeson, the Westchester County Office of Economic Development, and our friend sponsors, the Building and Realty Institute, Collado Engineering, E2, Geothermal Works, MPN Boilers, OLA Consulting Engineers, Sprague, and Solect Energy, and our event planner, the New York Power Authority. Thank you all for coming. Get home safe. One more video.
Hi, my name is Michael Murphy from Murphy Brothers Contracting. We've been interested in green technologies and the effect on our industry for a number of years, and I'm delighted to be a founding member of the Business Council of Westchester's Clean Energy Action Coalition. It's like a train that's coming at you. There's 3 things you can do. You can either jump on board, jump out of the way, or get hit. Which way do you want to be? I say jump on board. What do you say?
Thank you all very much for attending.